Okay, so Matthew, can you hear me? Matthew? I'm not hearing you. Okay, yeah, I'm just not hearing you on the on Zoom. Still not hearing you.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing audio
great,
for
great.
Zoom. Check 1, 2, 3.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much. Okay.
Good morning.
Sounds terrific.
live.
Hello, hello. All right. Thank you very much for your patience. We are having a little bit of technical difficulties. We may not be able to see the speakers from Zoom on our overhead projector, so we will just make do with and try our best, but I want to make sure that this meeting starts. So let's go ahead and convene today's meeting. It is October 5th, 2021, 9:06 a.m. This is the regular meeting for the Lake County Board of Supervisors, and we will commence the meeting with a moment of silence, which I believe Supervisor Crandall has one, and we have others as well. Or did you want to make a comment before we...
I just want to make sure our clerk of the board, assistant clerk of the board, Johanna Peelan, is online with us and can hear the meeting.
Oh, yes.
Johanna?
It's working.
Johanna, can you hear the meeting?
She's muted at the moment.
Johanna, can you hear? So she was unmuted for a moment and then remuted.
Where is our, and I apologize to those listening in and in the boardroom, where is our sound coming from? Because the boardroom visual is muted and I don't see anything else unmuted on the entire panelists that are currently available. So I doubt that anyone is hearing us in Zoom.
And the assistant clerk of the board is telling me she can't hear anything, but
Right.
she is ready.
And that makes sense. Thank you for checking in on that before we get started. I don't know if it's IT LPT or admin LPT that needs to be unmuted.
Yeah, it's IT LPT needs to be unmuted. Thank you. We have permission to be unmuted.
Okay, now Johanna, can you hear
Can you
us?
put your mouth on? Thank you.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Perfect.
I couldn't hear you before.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Hard to respond if you can't hear to any other questions we were asking you. All right, so I think everything is good. We have video, we have sound. Now let's go ahead and start our meeting. And Supervisor Crandall, we were with you.
Thank you. First and foremost, I would like to conduct a moment of silence for the folks that lost their or were affected by the Robin Fire in Lucerne. And I wanted to thank the North Shore Fire Department for getting right on that and conducting what they needed to in order to mitigate that situation. And second, I would like to, because it is Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month, I would like to offer a moment of silence for Gracie McDonald and her family.
Supervisor Pyska, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 4, consideration of extra items not appearing on the posted agenda. I did submit an item this morning, and I believe it is on our agenda today, if you refresh the agenda. And consideration of an item discussing the it's an extra item regarding a project in North Lakeport that we have been working on, and it is a meeting that is being requested of us to attend that will be on Monday, October 11th. I wanted to bring this to the board for approval of a delegation to be there with the meeting at the Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development. And since the meeting is on Monday, this came up on Friday after the posting of the agenda and needs to be completed prior to the next posting of the next agenda. And that is my reason for the extra item. Looking for a motion to approve. Oh, yes, sorry. Thank you. Any public input on adding this extra item? And hearing none, bringing it back for action.
I move to approve this extra item as it came up after the posting of the agenda and it needs to have action before our next available meeting.
We have a motion from Supervisor Scott, second by Supervisor Simon. Roll call, please. Johanna.
Okay, Supervisor Simon,
Yes.
Supervisor Crandall,
Aye.
Supervisor Scott,
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska,
Yes.
and Supervisor Sabatier.
Aye.
Thank you.
And we'll take that up at a later time when appropriate. Do we have any other extra items to add on? CAO Hutchinson.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'm requesting an extra agenda item, Public Employee Evaluation, titled Director, Health Services Director. This item came to my attention subsequent to the posting of the agenda, and there's a need to take action before the next agenda.
All right. Are there any comments or questions about the extra item? And then opening it up for the public, just on the addition of the item, not the item itself. Any comments? And seeing none, bringing it back to the board for action.
I move that we approve the extra item.
Second?
Was that enough, or do we need to restate the reasons?
Approve on the grounds already stated by the CAO.
So moved.
Second.
And we have a motion from Supervisor Pyska and a second by Supervisor Simon. Roll call, please, Johanna.
Recording in progress.
You guys are silent again.
Yes.
We went silent again, so she didn't hear.
She can't hear us.
Did we go silent
I'm
again?
not sure if you can hear me.
We can
I
hear
can't
you.
hear you.
So we seem to have lost ITL, LPT.
Johanna, are you hearing us at all?
No, we lost
No.
it. You gotta worry about Granicus?
Yeah, the one that was ITLPT has disappeared from the panelists.
And in the same phenomenon exists in the Zoom webinar, there's no audio. So,
And I am promoting ITLPT to panelist. As they were in the...
Recording in progress.
Now can you hear us?
I can hear you now.
Okay, I'm just going to do a brief, quick summary. Not sure when things went down, but we have an extra item that has been offered to the board as it came up after the posting of the agenda, and a motion has been made by Supervisor
Mr.
Pyska.
Chair, just one moment, please. I just want to confirm with someone in Zoom that they can hear, because this is important. So, okay, and they can. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. And then there was a second by Supervisor Simon, and now we are doing roll call. Johanna, please.
Okay, Supervisor Simon,
Yes.
is Supervisor Crandall there?
Yes.
Okay, Supervisor Scott,
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska,
Yes.
and Supervisor Sabatier.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And again, we'll pick up that item when it is appropriate. Let's go ahead and any further extra items before we move on from item 4? All right, let's go ahead and move on to approval of the consent agenda. Any items from the agenda that Board of Supervisors wish to pull? And hearing none and seeing none, let's ask the public. Any member of the public wish to pull an item from our consent agenda for further conversation? And seeing none and hearing none, let's go ahead and bring it back to the board for action.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the consent agenda 5.1 through 5.20.
Second.
We have a motion from Supervisor Scott, a second by Supervisor Simon. Roll call, please, Johanna.
Okay, Supervisor Simon,
Yes.
Supervisor Crandall,
Aye.
Supervisor Scott,
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska,
Yes.
And Supervisor Sabatier.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on to public input, our 9:05 a.m. item. If anyone wishes to speak to the board on any items that are not on the agenda today, you have 3 minutes. Let's start in the boardroom. Please come up to the microphone. Please provide your name, and again, you have 3 minutes. And if you're in the Zoom room, press the button at the bottom of your screen to raise your hand, or if you're calling via telephone, dial *9 and we will get to you.
Okay, my name is Randy Pledger. I live at 19455 Butts Canyon Road. The property next to me is a cannabis growing operation. Now, they've been hauling in water. I know you got the hauling today, but anyway, they've been hauling in water, several trucks a day. But the last couple of weeks, it's dropped down to 1. Now, of course, they're cutting their crops now. They're done for the season, except this gentleman is going to go back to hot houses. Now, my question is to you. You guys approved that hydrology report that they had to have it. Well, you also gave this man a permit in July. Now does he get a free pass on the exam? I mean, does he? I mean, okay, I've lived here for 60 years. I mean, I am a resident. I've lived in the property that I have now since the late 90s. I've gone through several droughts. Okay, my water is dead and has been dead for 3 years. Not just this year, 3 years, ever since the new well went in. And I need to know where the water is so I can borrow the money to have another well dug. Okay, it does me no good to put a well in now without that hydrology report. And it should be on his back, not mine. I'm a disabled veteran. I'm on a fixed income. I can't afford it. Okay, that's really all I have to say today. Thank you. I would like to say that I believe Moke Simon is doing a heck of a good job. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And any further comments in the public in the boardroom, please come on up to the microphone.
Morning.
And if you could please put your mask on, we're going to hear you.
My name is Ray Oliva.
Sir, if we can please have the mask on. Thank you.
Sorry. I got to take my glasses off because it fogs up. My name is Ray Oliva. I live at Riviera West. The first time I came to this board, I handed you a document that asked one of the things that I asked was a very simple question. Who was responsible for the studies, the committees, the work, the reports, the public in the county for the water and what they're doing about it? I received finally an answer back from one of the committees. There is no central database or point of contact for the information you are requesting. So right now we're in a position where there's no place for us to go to get the information unless we go step by step by step through every place in the building and outside to try and get solid information as to the position of this county on what's happening with the lake. That makes it extremely difficult, and UC Davis didn't help us out much in that effort either because they did a study on a sediment in the lake and they forwarded it to the USCG. United States Geological Society, or whatever survey. And they said, UC Davis said, if you have any questions about the results of this study on something extremely important, you have to go to the government office. There's no place in here that I can find the answers. Then when we went to find the answers, you had to be, matter of fact, one of them was, you had to at least have a master's degree to understand what was being reported. So I'm asking the supervisors, because you're responsible for me, for the lake, the environment, everything else that takes place here. Why do we not have a place to go to get this information without having to go from department or whatever to everything to get an answer? There is no central database for us to work with. It appears that there's no central supervision over the committees that we're doing, and there appears to be no central way in which the county can report back on what's going on in the lake. We all know about the fact that the mercury is still leaking into the lake. We know it's in the sediment. There's a couple brands of mercury. And nobody's got a plan. They say, yes, we have it here, but there's no solution or no attempt at a solution in the effort to get that stuff out of the lake. We'll never get it out of the lake. And we're not even sure that you can even stop it from coming in from the land right now. People have talked about building a dam and everything else. The sediment's going to keep going down, and it's going to work its way in. So we're asking for help. We're asking for somebody on the board to take charge or appoint somebody to take charge about what's going on. Because there's too many different places for us to go. And as I said, nobody has a report that they could hand to the public that the public could understand. They hide behind all of the technological language and everything else, and it makes it very difficult. Some of the people we're looking at right now are highly educated, are scientists, and they're going, this is crazy. What's going on in your county? I don't know. So we're asking you to please help, or to give us some hope, or appoint somebody that can coordinate all of this. When I was listening to the committee meetings, it became a discussion of money.
And sir, if we can go ahead and get to your final comment, your 3 minutes are up.
Who said that?
Right here.
Oh, okay. I got lost for a second. Matter of fact, I'm lost right now.
If we can get
That's all I'm asking for. And please, can you at least have somebody let me know? And let the public know. Maybe have a public meeting where you bring in all of the experts and they give us their reports and what they've actually done. A lot of studies, but nothing's...
Thank you,
sir. A
sir.
lot of studies. So thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. Have a good day.
Thank you. Any further comments in the boardroom for public comment? All right, let's go to the boardroom. We do have a hand up. Let's go ahead and ask Adam to go ahead and speak. Again, please provide your name, and you have 3 minutes.
My name's Adam Gates, and so I've been here for quite a number of years myself, and I'm currently seeking treatment for inpatient services. I've spoken with Lake County Behavioral Health. I've spoken with everybody I can think of to do it. I know that you guys have money allocated for this purpose, but it's not being spent. I don't know what the holdup is on it or whatever. Meanwhile, people out here are dying from this epidemic of drugs and everything going on here. And I know there's other things that, like the Comprehensive Addictive Recovery Act, that's allocated over $800 million for these same type of projects. And I just don't understand why it's so hard to get into a treatment program when you're actually seeking it. It doesn't make any sense to me. And so I'm just trying to ask you guys, can you guys maybe get the ball rolling, try to figure out how we can get some of these funds put into action? Because, like I said, I've tried everything. I'm trying to get into a program, trying to get my son back, and it's just, I've hit a brick wall here. And believe it or not, Lake County Behavioral Health only has 4 beds available for the entire county to put in inpatient treatment. And to me, it just doesn't seem like it doesn't seem right. I mean, it just shouldn't be this hard when you're seeking treatment to get it. And I know it's been very difficult. I've contacted the governor's office. I've contacted members of your board, as well as coming here today to try to speak to you guys and see. I mean, Jessica said that it's more of a long-term goal, but it needs to be a short-term goal. Something needs to be done about this, like, right away. I mean, like I said, people are dying out here, and so that's basically all I have to say, and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for your comment. And seeing no further hands or in the boardroom or in the Zoom room, let's go ahead and close down public comment. And let's move on to item 6.2, 9:06 a.m., consideration of update on COVID-19. And I believe that today we did have Dr. Charlie Evans that was planning to be here. There was a emergency that came up, and I believe we have a video that we will be playing today to provide the update. And so if we can go ahead and play that video, that would be great.
So thank you, Mr. Chairman, Board of Supervisors, for inviting me back to speak to the board. I apologize that I have to give this taped message as I am on shift in the emergency department tomorrow in Petaluma. Since I last spoke, we have seen a constant but steady decline in our numbers of new COVID-19 infections, very encouraging. It appears that this virus runs in cycles, and the decline in our numbers is consistent with what other counties and states, countries are seeing. The cycles tend to be every 2 to 3 months. It's poorly understood why it runs this way. Just as fast as the infection goes up, after 8 to 12 weeks, we see the infection rate start to decline, and it comes back down as fast as it started. We have seen this phenomenon across the world. Probably the first time we saw it was in India. Unfortunately, in India and in many other places across the world, when we saw the decline didn't come down to the same low baseline from which it started. So in May of this year, we reached our low point in the COVID-19 pandemic with 3 per 100,000 infections. Currently, we were at about 38 per 100,000. We peaked in early August at around 70. 38 per 100,000 is still dangerously high, with lots of circulating virus in our community, but it's much better than 70. We need to see these numbers continue to decline as we move into the winter and into the holidays. This is important because we do expect, with people moving indoors and as the temperatures begin to drop, that we will have more transmission within that community. We are seeing this in the state of Alaska right now, where infection rates are over 150 per 100,000, twice what we were at our peak. It is good news that we are seeing a drop in our new cases, but we must not let our guard down again as we did last spring. Since July 1, 2021, we have lost 100,000 people in this country. In Lake County, we've lost 29. Each of these people have families with mothers, fathers, grandpas, grandmas, children, and the current statistics show that many of these people who died were much younger than those who died in the beginning of the pandemic. To those families who are grieving, please accept my greatest sympathy and condolences. The process of dying from COVID-19 is a horrible experience, the isolation, the aloneness that the patient feels and that the family feels. And I see it every day in my work, and my heart goes out to families that have experienced that. We see regularly in the media people who speak out to get vaccinated after they've been stricken by COVID-19. In Sunday's Press Democrat, there was a rather poignant article and a plea from a Tennessee police officer who had COVID-19. He wrote from his hospital bed and a text to his police chief, quote, "When I can't take 3 steps to get to the potty chair and I feel like a grizzly bear just choked me out, that's got to be the worst feeling in the world. You have got to tell people to get their shots." Unfortunately, this policeman, father of 5 children, married, died 2 days later. He was not vaccinated. So vaccinations are our ticket to getting out of this pandemic. And let's talk about vaccination. This is some good news. Between September 1 and September 25th, we were able to give 2,700 vaccines in Lake County. This is more than 100 a day, which is an increased rate of vaccination from last month. An additional 600 people are fully vaccinated, and an additional 600 people are partially vaccinated. Currently, about 60% of those eligible for vaccine are vaccinated in Lake County, compared with 70% statewide. Statewide, 22% of those eligible have received no vaccine, and in Lake County, it's about 32%. We are doing better, and we still have opportunities. So I want to speak about the jail outbreak, just to update you. I think this is another success. We peaked out with 83 cases, 11 staff and 72 inmates. Currently, there's only 1 active case, a staff member. I think if we can get that staff member better and be excessively cautious, we might have worked our way out of this outbreak. Congratulations to all of you who worked hard to do that. I wanted to speak a little bit about how the hospitals are doing. Hospitals are still struggling to staff. Beds are in short supply. This morning at 9 o'clock, there were 3 ICU beds available in Mendocino and Lake County combined. That's very, very few considering the large population. And I think that's true throughout much of Sonoma County as well. In my work as an emergency physician, I constantly struggle to place people in the hospital, sometimes waiting up to 24 hours to transfer them as far as 200 or 300 miles away. So it's we're still struggling with bed availability. Many of you are aware that the Pfizer vaccine has a booster recommended. I wanted to talk about that. On September 24th, the CDC Director, Rochelle Walensky, stated that we can best serve the nation's public health needs by providing booster doses for the elderly and those in long-term care facilities, people with underlying medical conditions, and to adults at high risk of disease from occupational or institutional exposure. This aligns with the FDA's booster authorization and makes these groups eligible for a booster shot. On the same day, the Advisory Committee on Immunizations also announced that it had only reviewed the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine, and they will address with the same sense of urgency the Johnson & Johnson and Moderna vaccines. So, and that'll probably happen by the end of this month. So what this recommendation means is that people 65 years and older and residents in long-term care settings should receive a booster shot if they receive their primary series of Pfizer. And that series should have been completed 6 months ago. So it's recommended 6 months after. People age 50 to 64 with underlying medical conditions should also receive this booster. And people aged 18 to 49 may receive the booster based on their individual benefits and risks as reviewed with their primary care physician. People aged 18 to 64 who are at increased risk of COVID-19 exposure and transmission because of occupational or institutional setting may receive a booster of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine. I've been questioned by numerous people who got the Moderna vaccine if they should get a Pfizer booster, and I think the answer to that question is no. Be patient and wait for the data on the Moderna to come out, which should be out by the end of the month. And there is some evidence to suggest that the Moderna vaccine actually gives longer lasting protection than the Pfizer vaccine. And the data on the Johnson & Johnson will also follow shortly. Also in the news, on Saturday, the governor announced a mandate for vaccine for all students of schools in the state of California. This mandate follows the same mandate for all other vaccines such as measles, mumps, polio, rubella, diphtheria, pertussis, tetanus. So what this means is that we are the first state to mandate the vaccine for COVID-19, and it's likely that other states will follow suit in the coming weeks. This may be in effect as early as January of 2022. Wanted to speak about how schools are doing. We have had numerous cases in our schools in Lake County of COVID-19 infection. Fortunately, because of the masking mandate and because of California's higher vaccination rates, we have not had to close many schools. Nationally, there's been 2,000 schools that have closed. In the state of California, only 12 have closed, and we've had none closed in Lake County. I think we should give ourselves a pat on the back for this, and I think it's due to the masking mandate, the vaccinations, the attention to proper hygiene, and the hard work of the staff in those districts serving our kids. The state of California also has a modified quarantine to keep children in school when they've been exposed to an active case. And the way this works is that when an unvaccinated student is exposed to an active case, they can still come to school if they are asymptomatic, they are tested twice weekly, they wear the proper mask, and they continue to quarantine for all extracurricular activities. We've been doing this in Lake County, and it seems to be working. We're not seeing an increased rate of infection, which is good news. Some other information in the news is regard to a new drug that Merck has asked for emergency approval. And that drug is an oral medication. We don't have any oral medications currently. We have remdesivir, which is an IV medication. If stopped, this drug would reduce mortality by 50% and decrease hospitalization. Don't know anything more about it yet, and I'm sure those studies will be released soon. But again, it's hopeful information. And there are other drug companies that also have drugs in the pipeline to treat this disease. So that's encouraging news. So as we muddle through our way through this pandemic, and the one item we can count on, I think, is change. Everything changes with new data. And we don't know where we're going exactly or how we're going to get to the end of this. But the information we currently have certainly does help us reduce and manage our risk. We've talked about masking and the importance of proper masking and quality masking in terms of seal with N95 masks. And I think as we move into the winter months, and we probably will see another surge, if indeed we do, I think it's all the more important that we be fully vaccinated. I think that the Delta virus is out there and active in the community. It's clear that the Delta virus, that if you're not vaccinated, it will find you and will eventually infect you. It's a much easier way, there's a much easier way to get your antibodies than through infection, and that is through vaccination. The Delta virus will make you sick, and many will become critically ill, and some will die. With regard to the vaccine, you'll get some myalgias, you might have some chills, you might get a sore arm, but you won't become critically ill, and you won't die. I think we are very fortunate in this country to have these resources available to us. I know there's a lot of discussion and acrimony over vaccinations. And I encourage you all to discuss this with your family members who have not been vaccinated to mitigate their risk, to mitigate your risk, and to help all of you in your extended family. Lastly, I wanted to put in a plug for the flu vaccine. The flu vaccine is now available. It can be given with the COVID vaccine. It's available in pharmacies. and all the hospital staffs are beginning to vaccinate their people with it. I encourage you to talk to your primary care physician and ask when the best time is for you to get your flu vaccine. So once again, I want to thank you for inviting me to speak to you today, and I hope I see you on a live Zoom call in a couple of weeks, so I'll be able to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rothstein, as I'm sure that you were involved in helping with putting that together. I appreciate you playing the video for us. It's unfortunate that if we do have any questions, we have nobody to really respond at this moment in time, but opening it up for the board members if you do have any comments to make. Okay. I did want to, I hate doing this, but I felt there needed to be a correction. There was a comment about the vaccine that you won't get critically sick and won't die. It's much less likely, I think, is the better term to use to get sick, because we do know that it's not 100%. And so I just wanted to make that slight correction because that's something that I'm sure everybody heard. And I'm sure that was just a misspeak because we all know that there are, it's in the high 90s or mid 90s as far as the protection that we are seeing. And as far as the data that I'm receiving as well from the hospitals as well, but it's definitely not a 100%. And any way to decrease the impact to our community, I think is a great way to go, move forward. I recommend, and I am in support of getting vaccinated, but I'm also in support that it is your choice, but please help us keep our community safe by practicing social distancing, wearing masks when indoors amongst other people in the public, doing everything that we can on all ends to make sure that we can keep getting through this. And unfortunately, we're not seeing entirely the light at the end of the tunnel, but we are, at this moment in time with this surge, decreasing quite dramatically. I believe right now we're at 6.2% positivity rate, and this is as of yesterday's data that was posted this morning. And I believe we are at 17 cases per 100,000 now. And so that is definitely a great progress in moving towards a better, more safe environment at this moment in time. And with that, I would like to open it up to the public. If there's any public comments from the Zoom room or the boardroom, please come on up to the microphone, give us your name, and you have 3 minutes. Again, if you're in the Zoom room, press the button at the bottom of your screen to raise your hand, or dial *9 if you're calling via telephone, and we'll call on you.
I am Joan Moss. In the Wall Street Journal on Sunday, I read an article about a pill. And there's a pill coming out where people who've had COVID for a couple of days can take the pill and avoid hospitalization. This was in the Wall Street Journal. It is not a conspiracy theory. A friend heard it on the public radio early this morning about this pill. People without vaccines who get sick can take this pill, and it will keep them from getting so sick that they go into the hospital. I would like Dr. Evans to answer that question, since it was in the Wall Street Journal, and it was publicized in National Public Radio early this morning by a friend of mine. So I want the facts. Thank you. Dr. Pace, maybe he can answer it.
Just to let you know, it was in the video. It was discussed in the video. It is trying, the makers of the pill and the medication is working through the FDA to get emergency approval. He did state...
It was in the report. I could not understand the report.
It was a little difficult. I will agree with you on that.
I even forgot my hearing aids, but his lips weren't coordinated with his words. Where is he located? Is he located in Lake County?
This was a pre-recorded video, not a live video.
Okay. I wish there were questions and answers the way there is usually.
I agree with you.
I'm glad it was mentioned. I didn't hear that in the report. Thank you.
Thank you. And seeing no hands up in the board chambers and none in the Zoom room, we're going to go ahead and close public comment and bring it back to the board. Any further comments before we move on? And seeing none, thank you, Dr. Evans, for your efforts, and we look forward to seeing you live. Let's move on to, let me get my agenda back up. Item 6.3, presentation of proclamation designated the month of October 2021 as Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month in Lake County. And Supervisor Pyska.
The proclamation is designated the month of October 2021 as Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month in Lake County. Whereas pregnancy and infant loss is more common than we realize. It is estimated in the United States that 1 in 4 pregnancies ends in miscarriage, 1 in 72 pregnancies ends in stillbirth, and 1 in 200 infants die before their first birthday. And whereas many Lake County parents and families have suffered a miscarriage, a stillbirth, or the death of an infant during delivery or shortly after birth, and such a terrible loss is not often recognized. And whereas Lake County wishes to acknowledge the profound grief experienced by families who suffer the death of a small child, infant, or preterm baby. And whereas even the shortest lives are still valuable and the grief of those who mourn the loss of these lives is significant. And whereas the 15th day of October is recognized in the United States and around the world as a day of remembrance and awareness of pregnancy and infant loss, when supporters honor these losses by lighting a candle at 7 p.m. And whereas increased awareness and the causes and impacts surrounding pregnancy and infant loss may lead to greater understanding, support, and resources in communities across Lake County. And whereas recognizing Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month and Remembrance Day would enable the people of Lake County to consider how, as individuals and communities, they can meet the needs of bereaved mothers, fathers, and family members and work to prevent the causes of these deaths. Now therefore be it proclaimed, the Board of Supervisors do hereby proclaim October 2021 as Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month in Lake County, California, and encourage parents, caregivers, and all residents to become educated in opportunities to prevent pregnancy and infant loss and support bereaved families when prevention is not possible. Passed and adopted this 5th day of October, 2021. So, the loss of a pregnancy or infant is really difficult to talk about, and it leaves families feeling isolated and alone when they're grieving and trying to come to terms with really what they've just been through. So the more that we can talk about it openly, it brings it into the light, and it normalizes this really uncomfortable and difficult part of life. So this is really personal for me. I've been there. And I wanted to bring this forward so that we could talk about the resources that we have in Lake County and perhaps how we can do better. And I think we have a few people that are joining us in the Zoom room.
Yes, Supervisor Pyska, we have Emily Feenan, we have Elizabeth Anderson. Behavioral Health is also here. I don't know if they intended to speak. And another speaker that we invited in is Jamie White, but I don't believe she has come in yet. So Emily has her camera on now, and Elizabeth is in as a panelist, but no camera yet.
And do any of you have any comments to make in addition to the proclamation?
Good morning. My name is Elizabeth Anderson, and I'm the Executive Director with Motherwise in Lake County. I just wanted to mention a couple of those resources that Supervisor Pyska was bringing forward. And in Lake County here, we do have the Motherwise program. We can offer families support through a variety of situations, but pregnancy and early infant loss is one that we can definitely help with. If folks are interested in getting in touch with the program, our phone number here is 707-349-1210. We also have Hospice of Lake County. They do fantastic work with families experiencing loss. And nationally, we have Postpartum Support International, and a number of other agencies that can help as well. So if folks reach out to Motherwise, we can point them in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you. Emily?
Emily Keenan, Senior Public Health Nurse and SIDS Coordinator for Lake County Public Health. As Supervisor Pyska mentioned, talking about loss of a pregnancy or of an infant and child can be difficult, so I'm really grateful for this proclamation and raising awareness around this topic. The loss of a baby takes a devastating toll on parents, families, and communities. And Lake County Public Health collaborates closely with the coroner's office to provide services to families that have lost a child under the age of 18 months, regardless of the cause of death. As the SIDS coordinator for Lake County Public Health, I do go out and provide bereavement support to families that have lost an infant to presumed SIDS, sudden infant death, or other causes. When a family loses a child, I attempt to make contact with the family to establish a time to drop off what we call a keepsake box and assess the family's needs for services. Support services can include assessment of the family, crisis intervention and linkage to services, referrals to community supports. Like Elizabeth mentioned, hospice bereavement services has been one of the main resources I refer families to. And I offer ongoing public health nurse visits based on the individual family preference. The loss of an infant is something that no parent should have to experience, so there are resources available. And if someone or you have lost an infant, please call Public Health to see what services are available. And that phone number is 707-263-1090. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Jamie?
I just wanted to thank Jessica again for bringing this to the board. This is a very important event for a lot of our parents that are affected in this community. And we will be sending out a flyer to honor October 15th at 7, and we are going to encourage everyone to participate in lighting the candle. It's been really successful as a Zoom event, and we're also encouraging everybody who feels comfortable, it can be anonymous or not, to share their story, because sometimes your story can be the difference for somebody else who is going through something that they just needed to hear it, or they just need somebody to listen to or even talk to. So we're trying to break that silence, and with all the support that we have here in this community, it's really important that everybody is able to utilize all of that. So thank you guys for recognizing this, and let everyone know we are here, and reach out to all the resources that we have available.
Thank you very much. I see Director Metcalf is with us as well, wondering if he has any comments on this.
He indicated that he did not.
I can't really add any more to what's already been said. We work closely with Motherwise and Hospice and these other agencies, and I'm honored to be a part of this conversation, and I'm glad that they have spoken up, because this is a big issue, and I'm glad we're recognizing it, because I don't recall this ever being recognized in the past with a proclamation. So I'm happy to see it. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Supervisor Pyska, for bringing this to our attention. Very, very sensitive and difficult subject for sure. And knowing that you have the support and that you're not alone is definitely one of those ways to help out. Any final comments before we open it up for the public?
No?
All right, opening up for the public. Any comments on this item? Please come up to the microphone. 3 minutes. Give us your name.
Joan Moss. I think there is a word that is left out of this conversation, and it's called abortion. I'd like to know how many abortions occur in Lake County, and if there's help for people considering an abortion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that's a different topic. Carries similarities, but definitely a different topic. And at this moment, I don't know that we're prepared to respond to that question. And so, seeing no further hands up, let's go ahead and move on.
Yeah, I want to thank all of you for participating today. You know, this is something that we need to talk about. When I've gone through these experiences, I felt very alone, and I had no idea how common it was. And so once you start talking about it, you find family members, you find friends, and you find people that you can talk to. So it's important to keep this conversation going.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. So our next item, we're going to, I'm going to look at the fire chiefs. If you can give us an extra 5 to 10 minutes, we need to go to item 7.4 as it's related in some way to the same staff that we already had here, and then we'll get to your 6.4 item. And so we're going to jump over to 7.4, consideration to approve staff recommendation to apply for grant funding from the National Association of County and City Health Officials. And I will pass this on to, says Health Services, help me out, CAO Hutchinson.
I agendized this, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
If you would pass it on to me. And
Please.
I believe that Carolyn Holliday is in the Zoom room and will help me speak to this issue. In support of the Health Department, I placed this item on the agenda for the Health Department to assist them in getting your board's support to apply for the NACHO grant, National Association of County and City Health Officials, in the amount of $450,000. The due date for that submittal is October 13th, and I yield to Carolyn Holliday to tell you what this grant is all about.
Good morning, Board. I appreciate having the opportunity to have this before you and to speak on it. This opportunity came up very short-dated. It's essentially up to $450,000 that would support SafeRx in doing the work that it currently is already doing. So essentially, we wouldn't have to pick up any new staff or provide any new activities. We could continue to do what we're doing and expand what we're doing with that extra $450,000, up to $450,000. It should be noted that that influx of money would allow us to cover some of our staff time, but it would also allow us to cover portions of items that are usually paid for by Hope Rising. And so our hope is that if we're allowed to go after this funding, that it will support both our department and Hope Rising when it comes to opioid reduction.
Thank you very much. Any further comments from CAO Hutchinson before we open it up for the board?
No, sir.
Any comments or questions from board members? Supervisor Scott.
Just that this item came to Hope Rising, and they have the support of Hope Rising to move forward because SafeRx is on the umbrella of Hope Rising. So this is work we are already doing, work that is important to continue in our community. So I definitely support this application.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Definitely have heard and seen many great things coming from SafeRx, so absolutely happy to see us supporting this grant process. I see Director Metcalf just jumped on. Did you have a comment?
Well, I just wanted to follow up on Supervisor Scott's comment because I sit on the Hope Rising Governing Board, and so I also want to offer our support because this also complements the work that we do at Behavioral Health Services. So this is very exciting, and hoping that Health Services gets it.
All right, thank you very much. If there's no further comments, let's go ahead and open it up for the public. Any comments from the public on this item? And seeing none in the boardroom and none in the Zoom room, let's go ahead and bring it back to the board for action.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve staff's recommendation to apply for a grant funding from the National Association of County and City Health Officials.
Second.
We have a motion from Supervisor Scott, second by Supervisor Simon. Johanna, roll call, please.
Okay, Supervisor Simon?
Yes.
Supervisor Crandall?
Aye.
Supervisor Scott?
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska?
Yes.
And Supervisor Sabatier?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And thank you to the chief's patience. Let's go back to item 6.4, 9:40 a.m. item, presentation by North Shore Fire regarding their fire fuels crew project.
All right.
And if you'd like, you can sit down in one of the seats up front. That way you can remain while we have the question and answer portion as well.
And Mr. Chair, the chief has brought a PowerPoint presentation that I think Matthew is ready to queue up when the chief wishes him to do that.
And so I'll go ahead and introduce this. Chief and I think it was the chair from Habib have met, I think it was back in April or May, we were discussing some of this, and Chief is looking for some other ways to combat the fuels that we have. At certain times we used to have jail crews, we used to have other agencies that were allowed to do it, volunteers and things of that nature, but for whatever reason we don't have those resources any longer. And so we met, discussed some budgetary items, and I think the chief is going to go ahead and bring forward everything that we've discussed in that in a more organized manner. But just wanted to say this is a very good idea, and thank you, Chief, for bringing it forward.
So Chairman Sabatier and Supervisors, thank you for letting me present this. And so as Supervisor Crandall said, this was just was a brainstorming thing that started that once the ball started rolling, it's rolling quite quickly. So we decided that we needed to have a fuels crew to help with the reduction of fuels around the county, not only in my district, but around the entire county. So we can go to the next slide here and I'll start from there.
It should be coming.
Okay.
There it is.
Yeah, so we started talking about it with that, and also my two board members that are in the back, Shannon Stilwell and John Barnett, also helping me walk through this process, and we decided that we needed to develop a fuels crew. And some of the impacts it may or may not have. Fuels crew, it obviously will clear the brush. We're seeing less and less of those crews available. As a matter of fact, we don't even get a response of a hand crew or of any type on a wildland fire anymore. It has to be requested and it has to be approved because of the lack of resources throughout the state. So developing this crew, we can do prescribed berms appropriate and throughout the county. The crew, the number 2 bullet there really is one of the most important ones for the fire districts as a whole, because right now what happens is our fire crews stay on the scene till the fire is entirely mopped up, till it's out 100%. Well, that means that someone, the next emergency is not being taken care of. So if we develop this crew, they can also respond to these fires, take the place of those EMS firefighter positions, put them back in the stations for the next emergency, and still we can get the fire mopped up. And then the impact, another one the crew will do is fuel mitigation. Oops, I hit something there.
Hit escape.
Yeah. They'll do projects. This is one we're still kind of working on, but fuel mitigation projects, we know throughout the town halls that I attend, and Supervisor Crandall attend on the North Shore specifically, the theme is the same. I can't do the work, I'm too elderly, where do I get this work done, how do I get it done? So we're trying to help out with that, and this seems to be how we can. Next slide. So as the ball started to get rolling, we decided that we're kind of in the middle of a grant season, so to speak. If I really wanted to get this crew off the ground, and I don't like waiting, we had to do something fairly fast. As you can see, back to our brainstorming that happened in April and May with Supervisor Crandall and Ms. Trappa's Chairman Trappa from Habmatol. We did a presentation. She called me back fairly quickly, within a week, and I made a formal presentation to their board on my plan for this crew. They subsequently decided to fund the payroll and benefits for this plan. Now, the reason why this presentation is being made is because that is the budget for the fuels crew for 1 year. And what I had asked for is I need funding for the first year so that we can work on securing grant funding for future years. I'm running a model that's similar to North Lake Tahoe Fire Protection District. They have a fuels crew of 65 people that is 95% run by grants. The other 5% is a private contract with Northern Nevada Utilities. So it's doable and it's possible. But I needed to get off the ground. If I waited to try to write those grants and then see if we get it and go from there, we're looking at 22, 23 fiscal years before we can get started. And in my opinion, that's just too far in the future. We need to get started now. So we have the payroll and benefits portion of this crew funded. It calls for 1 fire captain, crew supervisor, and 10 crew members. They are going to be full-time employees of North Shore Fire Protection District. They will be benefited positions. They will be titled firefighters with lower level of requirements training-wise, and we'll train them on the job for the fuels crew. What I'm looking for today, you can see, is the outstanding part there is the equipment. My budget, my 911 budget, does not have the ability to fund this crew or the equipment or the saws, the hand tools, the things like that to run this crew. So that's what I'm looking for, and that's an estimate of that 473. And then some operating costs. We've actually, I've made presentations to Robinson Rancheria and PG&E, the Wine Alliance, things like that, to help with the operating costs and see where we can go from that. They're all in consideration. I did have a good meeting with Robinson Rancheria about, they have a fuels crew also, Terra, but maybe that they also have a petroleum products there, so maybe the fuel and oils and things like that we'll need can be worked out, some sort of arrangement there. So we've been searching everyone, and you're kind of one of the last to come forward and do that. Grant opportunities. So we recognized early on that this is not something I can do alone. When we ran our special measure, one of the things that we ran off of was it takes a village. It's not just one person. So we have developed partnerships with different people in Lake County. Clerk, we've had meetings with them. They're really excited and looking forward to this, our partnership with them. We've partnered with the RRA. I sit on that and have attended most of that. So I'm just looking to get the rest of the funding for this particular project so that I can move forward. I'm pretty excited that we actually got the funding for the payroll and benefits. I am going to hire the fire captain probably within the next month and a half and go from there. And next slide.
Sorry, I forgot I was in charge of that.
So some of the requirements is establish a risk and hazard criteria for communities to determine priority parcels. So this is kind of a big deal. Is how do you do this? There's been questions raised. Will this crew only work on the North Shore, or will it work anywhere in the county? There's not enough grants on the North Shore to keep it funded full time. So this crew is going to work wherever the work is, wherever the funding is, through grants or individuals throughout the county. And but we need to establish the priorities, and we haven't done that. We've had some preliminary meetings. The Fire Chiefs Association and clerk are working on the CWPP and other things to determine what is the priority level. How do we prioritize projects? How do we get those things done? So that kind of work, that kind of discussion is going on in the background as we speak. So that'll be our prioritization. And while I inherited being on the RRA board when I took over as chief, that has expanded. Now we have plenty of different organizations, fire safe councils, the Firewise communities and things like that that we're really involved with. And there seems to be a lot of energy from all of those different organizations for this type of program. Mitigation, understanding what is already being done by the CWPP. That CWPP probably is way more important than anyone realizes. The one thing that Shannon Stillwell and I took out of, we went up and visited North Lake Tahoe Fire Protection District. Every single grant that they write refers to the CWPP. We need to get that thing completed and get it adopted and use it for future grant opportunities on a federal level. They call that program out a lot. And then how the North Shore Fuels crew can fulfill a role in the plan. So the one thing that we heard loud and clear early on was, specifically from Clerk, was they have projects, but they're having trouble finding workers. They're having trouble finding crews. They're booked, they can't get enough employees, or whatever. So they end up going outside. I want to develop a crew. I want to keep that money here locally. And so that we're not having to get crews from, Sacramento or even further out than that. I want to keep that money locally if we can. And I'm not above deciding this is not only just a hand fuel crew group. I want to start a chipping program on the North Shore, but wherever that's at, we'll chip anywhere and wherever the funding is available for that. The biomass removal, things may be a part. I know that the Big Valley, Big Valley is working on a biomass group. So maybe there's some partnerships there that we can still tap into. I haven't even really discussed that with them directly yet. And then the community. Developing the cooperation within community members, increasing awareness and education, provide defensible space assessments. Home hardening is a big one. And then training residents about the fuels crew and how they can access these resources. One thing that North Lake Tahoe Fire Protection District did is they have an online form that you can fill out, and you bring it and they fill it out, and the chipping crew there comes by, chips it back into the yard, and they go on to the next one. They do approximately 1,700 lots in a 6-month period. So they're very busy in a 12 square mile area. Okay, next slide. So recruitment. So the first hurdle is the funding, and we're getting there. The second hurdle, as you all know, is going to be recruitment. Fuels crew, they have to be a minimum age of 18. They have to meet the standards of my fire the department policies, and then we will train them on the job. I have staff inside the department that's working on strategies, but the graduating seniors that really don't know what they want to do is a good place to start. The community colleges, believe it or not, Santa Rosa Community College, they actually have fuel crew classes at their college now. How to be prepared to get a fuels crew job. Tribal communities, I'm not opposed to any of those, and then utilizing a hiring agency if we have to. We're going to look high and low for employees that want to be. The one thing that under the training and development that is on there is once they are a member of the North Shore, they open up to a lot more training that we offer. I offer paramedic training. I'll pay for it. And then through it with our department, they can get other training to maybe transition over to the 911 side of the fire department. So I'm going to skip to bullet number 2, the knowledge transfer with North Lake Tahoe Fire District with the site training and onboard opportunities. Early on in this, I reached out to our Lake County representative at PG&E, Donovan Lee, And got me in touch with a gentleman, a friend of his, by the name of, he's a division chief with North Lake Tahoe Fire Protection District, Isaac Pounding. They are kind of the model for the nation and their crew. Their crew's been around for 25 years. They do it very well. So Shannon and I, as I indicated earlier, we went up there and visited with them for a whole day. They gave us a bunch of information. They have offered to come here and help us on-site train. And then they have also offered and do on a regular basis invite crews to come shadow their crews so that you get an idea of how to do it. So I intend on taking advantage of those situations and opportunities with the North Lake Tahoe Fire District and getting our crew up and running as quickly as we can so that we can be working by next summer. Specialized training for fuel mitigation projects, established program details. So this crew is dedicated to fuel reduction and education. So, you know, they will be doing training. They will learn how to provide help, assistance with prescribed burns, home hardening, how to give in presentations to the community as needed, and how to harden the home. Ongoing training with the fuels crew request, some goals. My board has been very good about giving me, you need to have a 1-year plan, 3-year plan, 5-year plan. My hope is by year 2 that they're responding within the county to wildland fire emergencies as a crew, a hand crew, and can help out, assist with the mop-up and things of on our calls. Down the line further, maybe we can get them certified as a crew, increase the staff a little bit, and get them certified as a regular hand crew, and can respond to emergencies outside of the county. But that's down the road. But it's good to have some goals. Okay. So lastly, here's our roadblocks is the initial development costs and funding. I've talked much about that. And that's kind of what I'm looking for, maybe hopefully some support today, is that funding. Once we're over that hurdle, I really have to do that recruitment side. That'll be my next hurdle, as I said. Lack of awareness and understanding within the county. I've put this presentation on several times now, and still some don't understand what it is or what we can do. And we need to educate and do a little bit better job of that. Incapable of finding qualified crew members and represents the North Shore Fire Protection in a professional manner on and off the line. Yeah, as we know, hiring is hard right now for any job. And I don't think that this is going to be any different, but I believe that there are kids out there. That's why we're going to kind of center on high school seniors that are graduating that don't really know yet, but let's give them some skills and let's try to see if the fire service is something they're interested in. So that's kind of my presentation. I cut it down because it could be rather long, but and I think the sustainability is the failure. The last one there, I see it come back up, is the failure. If we, I'm going to rely on grant funding. I don't have the funds within my own 911 budget, as I put it, to support this program long term. And the partnerships like with Clerk and others are going to be very, very important for sustaining the crew after year 1. So that's my presentation. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Chief Ciancio, for your presentation. Supervisor Crandall, would you like to make some final comments before we open it up?
Chief, thank you for going over that. And I just wanted to highlight that one of the discussions or topics of discussion that Chief mentioned was having someone to mop up while we're attending another emergency. Back in, I think it was July, Nice had a fire, and then there was one in Clear Lake Oaks right afterwards. And so that's a typical situation. what happened Sunday, same thing. There could have been something else that happened, and then we need someone to fill the shoes of that. And so I appreciate the fact that it's county-wide. Another thing I really appreciate is the fact that you're targeting the 18-year-olds. There are a lot of kids that come out of school that aren't ready for college or don't want to go to college and need jobs. And so it's just good to see other options out there. I'm prepared to provide some of my discretionary funds. I know I just spent some last week, but this serves a lot of purposes. This serves, you know, the fact that this is a crisis when it comes to fires. It's one of the many crises we're dealing with. So I'm prepared to help in any way I can. I only have a specific amount, but I know that you said the outstanding funds is $521,779. So I spent, I think it was $50,000 last year, and of course I assigned, and that pretty much assigns another 40-something thousand for the next year. So I think I can cover some of the from the 73 to the 100,000, and I'm prepared to apply some of that. But also I know that one of the topics that we discussed is we would like to see if there's another way we can apply this towards some of the funding that's in the percentage for the cannabis funds as well. So just wanted to highlight that, and go
Thank
from
you
there.
very much. Supervisor Pyska?
I am so excited about this project. This is what we have been working towards with the Risk Reduction Authority, and before that with the Cauberry Council. I've spent every day since the Valley Fire 6 years ago working on building this capacity in our county to manage the vegetation that we have. And I don't know if anyone's been looking around, but we already had a problem with vegetation in our county, but this summer with the drought and the heat, we've lost thousands of trees, and our forests are being decimated today. So this is not a problem that we can ever put on the back burner. We have to continually work towards to managing what we have to keep our communities safe. So we've been setting the goal to build capacity in our county to get this work done. But Chief Ciancio is correct. We do not have the crews to do the work that needs to be done. And so I'm really excited. I know that your focus is the North Shore, but let's be honest, the North Shore is a huge part of our county to begin with. But I know that you're going to be working with Clerk and everybody else to address the priorities that are in our CWPP and are in our CMAD. And we're having our risk reduction quarterly meeting or update right after this, a little bit later today. So you're going to hear about all this work that we've been doing. And this is so exciting to have one of the projects finally come forward. So I support this wholeheartedly. This is, I hope, just the beginning of this type of work that we can do collaboratively and cooperatively in our county.
Thank you very much. Supervisor Simon?
Yeah. You made a very good point. We heard this presentation at the Risk Reduction Authority, and obviously we understood the importance, and I know we did a support letter that was put in on one of the grants to help this move forward. So just as Jessica said, the collaboration and coordination to get projects started and boots on the ground, I think is, the most important and critical thing. You made a statement earlier about the CWPP that a lot of folks don't understand how important that is. But we clearly do here at the board level and the Lake County Risk Reduction Authority and the fire chiefs, how important that document is for us moving forward. And we're at a critical point of trying to get that completed now here as soon as possible. We have RCD working on that to get that updated, and it's starting to be circulated. So we clearly understand that, and look at that as being, as you said, the roadmap to the future on how we're making the real impacts here in Lake County. The other thing that I am excited about on this project, as we said, and we looked at this, tragedies, there's always opportunities that come out of that. And I think one of the things, building a new economy, this fire crew is an opportunity for young folks for job opportunities, for training, just as you had said. And I think we really need to grow on that, because this is going to be a part of our lives for the next, well, the rest of our lives, but for sure the next 20 years on vegetation abatement, climate change, how it's affecting the world. And this is an opportunity. I know we talk about higher education and other things throughout Lake County, but as Supervisor Crandall said, there are a lot of folks that are just workers. They want to get up in the morning, they want to go to work and see something done at the end of the day, and they're not going to go to college. And I think this is an important way to get those folks that are looking for direction for opportunities in a new economy in Lake County. So I am excited about the project also. There are some projects that I would love to see this crew in South Lake County. You know, we have some serious issue with vegetation growing throughout the creeks that go by both Middletown and Hidden Valley. There are plenty of other projects that need to be done too. So, you know, like I said, I'm excited about the opportunity and the conversation we're having today. So there is one other coordination opportunity. We have the Workforce Alliance in North Bay. I've asked them, Bruce Wilson, to come to our October 18th meeting. That is a JPA that we set as a county for job creation, job training, education, and other things. So I'm hoping we can tie this together with the long-term relationship with that JPA that we also have with that myself and Jessica Paiska set on. And hopefully we can get some of those training dollars and other things in the future at least talked about to be funneled through this program. At least that's initial conversations we'd like to have. But I too support this opportunity and this program. I know that there is another work crew out there, the Eco Restoration, the Terra program that's being run. So this is just a collaboration effort that will just help us increase these things as we all get those calls, whatever district we're in or area of project that needs to be done. Once the CWPP is completed and we can look at these things and focus over the next few years, will really help us make an impact. I myself too, like Supervisor Crandall said, and I haven't asked CAO if that's an opportunity. I know that as a board member, I have some funds that can be used in my district, or I'm hoping it can be used all over the county if I decide for that. But out of my discretionary funds, I'm prepared also to put in on this project throughout with those dollars. So, and I think the starting balance is about $200,000 that we have for each district, and I'd be willing out of those funds. I got some projects I got to get done in my district, so I can't do all of them. But to start with, I know I would be willing to put in $100,000 towards the opportunity to get this going.
Awesome.
So that was it's a 50-50 split. But you know, we want to make sure it's countywide. I know you said that to start with. So I think the impact it can have. That's how much I believe in it. And like I said, I do have some other projects, so I got to keep at least 50% on some things I got to get done this year. But I would be willing to step up and work that out with the CAO to put my funds $100,000 towards this project to get it started. One other thing too, and I think we've had offline conversations, and wearing our other hat, I think the coordination, as you said, collaboration. I just really want to thank the Bemetal tribe for stepping up. And what they've done so far and committed. Another great thing that that government is doing here for Lake County residents. But continue those conversations and collaborations. We've got a brand new chipper, a big old bandit. I think it's a bandit chipper. We paid about $50,000 in our organization from the tribal side that could do some real help. So we'd coordinate with that. I know we'd be willing to talk about a partnership to volunteering that machine to be used also for some of that chipping stuff. So maybe that can help on some of the costs to begin with. So anyway, thank you very much, Chief. Appreciate the presentation.
Supervisor Scott.
Well, I definitely support this program. It's definitely needed in our community. I guess my question would be, when do we believe our CWPP will be completed? Because I know you're saying we need that completed to be able to go to receive more grant funding.
Yeah, so we're pretty close. The first presentation is actually going to be made to the fire chiefs. We've been in contact with Lynna Juttinen to do that. So she's pretty close. They haven't actually given us a date, but I kind of pushed last month and said, when are we going to see this? And I don't think it'll be too far out. Harry Lyons is kind of coordinating that one, so I believe that it'll be before the first of the year for sure.
Great. And then I don't know if there was funding already set aside, or we've spoken about this, but can we maybe convene a cannabis funding meeting and go back and look at that and see if we can't come up with the rest of the money? I've already allocated my funds. I'm looking to do creek cleaning. So kind of on the same set, just looking to clean out the creeks. I was kind of hoping one of the fires would go through and take out the brush in the creeks, but we haven't been so lucky to have that happen. But I would love to convene the cannabis committee and see if we can't come back with the rest of the funds needed to finish this project.
Thank you for your comment. Supervisor Pyska.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on the CWPP. It is due any minute. We're all anxiously waiting. But our Civic Spark Laurel Bard last year did mapping of several of the priority areas, so they're already there. It's just, having it in the official report where the chiefs are going to take a look at that and determine what the priorities are. But the work that clerk has mapped out, has identified, has funding for, does not have the crew for. So that's really where the capacity comes in. It's so important. And I would love to have the cannabis committee take a look at filling in the gap, and then I would love to put in 50,000 too.
Thank you. I appreciate the presentation. This is something that I think we've all worked on individually to try and protect our communities. I know that there was some great collaboration done over in the east side of Clear Lake between BLM, CAL FIRE, our local districts, and clerk. Actually, clerk, I would say, saved the day by providing the CEQA that we needed to be able to get it all done. It's unfortunate the process that is required to do some of the work that needs to be done. Whether it's clearing vegetation or control burns, there's still a pretty intense bureaucratic process to go through. And so I really hope that people, agencies like clerk, can join in to help us prepare those things and help move forward faster. Right now we're talking about the crew, but it's going to take some actual green lights for us to get those things approved for the crew to work on. That to me is just as important as the crew, or else we have a crew and we can't do the work, or we're cleaning up after the fact. We all know fires, it's so much more than just a fire. The trauma it causes our community, the displacement of our communities, we have to figure out ways to mitigate and minimize the impacts. We're never going to stop fires, but it's the idea of not letting them grow into 10,000 acres, into 100,000 acres. And so it was sad for me for the Cache Fire. It's one of the areas we did not clean up this year. We did almost everything around except for that one area. And so it's just, it's fire finds a place. It's about mitigating and minimizing the actual impacts of the fires. This needs to be county. I'm glad that even though it's titled North Shore, you're already speaking of the county. And I am going to echo some of the sentiments that were shared by Supervisor Simon. I'm hoping that this is a pilot program to something larger in the long run. I don't see how this will prove unsuccessful. This is absolutely necessary. But to have a North Shore fire crew and having a South Shore fire crew that takes care of all around the county and working together based on where the need is, I think is the way to go. It's already been mentioned. I know that we have $9 million right now in reserves, not accounting for the, I lost the term, for the money set aside. We had $2.2 million for retention or whatever it was called. I forget that exact category.
Workforce retention, RRA.
Workforce retention. So we still have $9 million set aside. In my opinion, that's what we need to look at. And so absolutely, let's have the Cannabis Committee take a look at it and bring it back to the board, see what's possible. Because in my opinion, this is on our Vision 2028, on how to better protect our environment. The funding that was provided to us as individuals was for projects within the community. This crosses all boundaries, all borders, and is something that we should be doing, and I'm glad that it's we're being approached with this offer, and I think we need to take the offer. So I'm all in favor for bringing this back on how it's going to get funded. I think it's absolutely 100% possible to fund it. I almost want to offer that we need to look at two different ways, a 1-year and a 2-year funding. just for the fact that we want to make sure as we complete the CWPP that that gets completed in time so that you can request the right appropriate grants and continuously do what you've already done, which has been fabulous as far as asking for other agencies and businesses around the lake to help support this. I think that we can get there and we will get there. Supervisor
Yeah,
Preston?
I just want to follow up on the multi-year plan. The strategic planning of this project is obviously very important, and we've talked about this before. What the Risk Reduction Authority is doing, which we'll speak about in a little bit, is we have a Best Fits grant meeting. Is it once a month now, or is it every 2 weeks? So that's where all the nonprofits and agencies come together, sit at the table, look at all the grants that are available, figure out who should apply for which one, who can supply letters of support. And that's the first avenue for the strategic planning for the funding. And then and we can work to backfill whatever isn't funded. But this is going after PG&E grants, Fire Safe Council grants from the state. These are really big pots of money that are really important. And it's important for us to support all of the agencies that are going through that process.
Absolutely. So thank you again, and I'm certain that we will come back and find some way to make this happen and make this possible. If there's no further comments, let's go ahead and open it up to the public. Chief, please, you can start the public comment. And actually, let me change that. We are not starting public comment. You have more than 3 minutes. You can speak.
I'll keep it short.
I don't want to limit you.
It's all good. No, we collectively, as the Fire Chiefs Association and individual fire chiefs, to include Forest Service and CAL FIRE, BLM, totally hats off to Mike for moving forward with this. You know, over my 10 years, Chief, we've lost over 50% of our county land mass, 3,200 structures, and it's amazing if we sit back in time. Our biggest fires in Lake County were the Mendenhall Complex in 1986 and the Forks Fire in 1996 of over 80,000 acres. You know, through that time, we're seeing those devastating fires that are 10, 20, 30, up to 100,000 acres, the LNU, the MEU, and, you know, the severity of where our fuels are year-round now. Our fire season doesn't close. And then we support Mike 100% on this, and we think it's a great idea. And there are, when we look at vetting these projects, is the critical infrastructure, the economic impact, the environmental impact, and those critical infrastructures are, each of us as fire chief have critical communities, whether it be Noble Ranch, whether it be Spring Valley, whether it be Robinson area. Those are all areas that are just waiting for a coffee park. And so in 41 years of serving this county, the fire growth is just grown to unproportions. So we're seeing fires that are burning 6,000 to 10,000 acres in an hour. And so we need to get in and do these fuel reductions. And like I said, working with Mike, this being a county-wide project, logistically, operationally, we're there to support him. You know, I think that it's nice having a new, fresh chief that has a little bit better outlook on the big picture. And hats off to you, Mike. This is fantastic, and for the board to support that. If we don't, we're going to have another coffee park, and we're going to have those fires continue. As you talked about the Cache Fire, that was one of the fires that within 3 minutes went from a 1/4 acre to 3 acres, 20-mile-an-hour winds, and before I knew it, I lost 64 structures within my district. Astronomical that we had no casualties out of that. And that is going to continue unless we do these fuel reduction projects. And what I like about Mike's project is that it's not just a one-time, it's sustainable. If we look at our shaded fuel breaks along 281 Soda Bay, those were done, but there wasn't sustainability to make sure we maintain those shaded fuel breaks. And so I think that with some of the issues and some of the things we've done with local abatement, administrative penalties, is that a good majority of our property owners are absentee property owners, and they don't realize the impact that their properties, even though we've done everything to try to get them to abate them, working with Mike and those other groups to get these areas mitigated to protect and have defensible spaces there. So, and that's it. I appreciate your support, Mike. Awesome job, dude. Really, it is awesome to work with a group of fire chiefs that I work with, Joe and Paul, and of course Jeff, the new fire chief, the new kid on the block, and of course Mike. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further public comment in the boardroom? And then I see that we have Laurel Bard. Let's go ahead and unmute her. And please provide your name.
Hello, this is Laurel Bard from Clear Lake Environmental Research Center speaking. I just wanted to thank Chief Ciancio for giving an excellent presentation. As everyone else has said, this is incredibly relevant work, especially when it comes to implementing projects that are in the Community Wildfire Protection Plan. And Clear Lake Environmental Research Center is fully committed to identifying projects, conducting community outreach, and passing those projects along to the fuels crew, as well as conducting the necessary environmental review to make sure that we're doing all of this in an ecologically sustainable way. Just really wanted to offer my support and say that I'm really excited that this program is happening, and we look forward to working with you, Chief Ciancio.
Thank you very much for your comment. And I see no further hands up in the Zoom room, and no one getting up to speak here in the boardroom, so bring it back to the board. Any further comments? I did want to make one comment I forgot to make, is I know in the past I've seen a lot of work, whether it's through construction programs. I believe there was an EMT program over at Carlay High School. I don't know if EMT is the right term for that, but it was something along those lines. And I think that those schools are good candidates for finding some of that workforce. I know at Loconoma possibly. And so just putting it out there, I know those kids are looking to get involved in something. The schools are trying to get them involved in those types of things, and so I think that that might be a good place as well to find some of those candidates.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm open to all the strategies because, as I said, that'll be the next hurdle is really recruitment, for sure.
But thank you again for your presentation. As you can see, there's not much friction for getting that support. It came very easily. We're all looking forward to increasing the safety of our communities, and this sounds like this is right along those lines. So.
And I'd like to just thank you all for the support, and I kind of got the same feeling I got when I got the phone call from Hamilton and the other half of it. So it's moving fast, and I don't know that I anticipated it moving this fast, but I'm willing to deal with it and get it going. I'd like to have boots on the ground by May of next year.
Awesome.
So that's my goal.
Awesome.
So thank you.
Thank you very much. Supervisor Crandall.
Yes, and Chief, just thank you again. For me, it's important to get something like this going because, we've been working, I was on the Risk Reduction Authority as well, and I know that there's a lot of hurdles we had to jump through, especially the pandemic, but also just waiting on the agencies to kind of conduct that oversight they needed with us, so that kind of hindered some of what we were trying to do. So putting something to action is commonly what we're looking for, and so this does that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. So I see that our next item is set for 10:30 and set for 10 minutes. Is that truly the time frame you guys are looking at? I'm just looking at the clock, whether we take a break or if we start.
Take a 5-minute break, I'd agree.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go ahead and take a 10-minute break. So we will reconvene at 10:53. We took a little bit longer. That was a 15-minute break. But it is 10:58 a.m. Let's go ahead and reconvene our meeting, and we are going to move on to our 10:30 a.m. item, consideration of report from the Lake County Community Risk Reduction Authority. This was brought to you by Supervisor Simon and Supervisor Paiska, so handing it off to you.
Yeah. You know, obviously, just want to, when we brought on NCO, we committed obviously to do our quarterly reports. And what I would like to say to NCO, I'd also like to say to our CEO, Carol Hutchinson, and also Jessica, thank you very much for being able to get this partnership together. Since NCO has come on board, we've really taken some steps and strides forward to move forward. And also to thank the board for the amendment that we did to add the extra seats to the Risk Reduction Authority. So today is our first report on the work that has been done. As you heard earlier in the project we were talking about, the CWPP is very important work that's being done and being reported out with the Lake County Risk Reduction Authority through RCD, and it really is in which being educated on when I first joined the Lake County Risk Reduction Authority, having that roadmap for the opportunity for success in fire prevention and risk reduction here in Lake County, especially through that document. So I'm excited about that, and today we're going to get a report from Tammy on the great work that's being done, but the collaboration, the once-a-month meetings and collaboration with all agencies being invited to the table in Lake County to really talk about where we're going in the future here is so important. There are conversations that happen all over. At our LAFCO meetings, there's constant conversation about, fire flow and fire hydrants. And now we have the water purveyors at the table and looking at those roadmaps and opportunities coming to, whether it's USDA, Fire Prevention, Fire Safe Council, California Fire Safe Council grants, or other things that maybe give us opportunities to address many different issues on the fire side is very important. And as you know, the Lake County Risk Reduction is not only for fire prevention. That's what's at our front door right now with climate change. And also it is to address all risks in the county, which is floods, fire, earthquake, and other preparedness. And one other thing to add, pandemics, drought, all the things that are coming up. But it puts all the folks at the table that are doing the work outside of the county, the nonprofit agencies, fire safe councils, and other agencies in the county that are just focusing on making the lives safer or as safe as possible for our residents in Lake County, to look at more funds to be brought in, and also creating different opportunities on workforce. Some of the conversation we just had, there are opportunities out there that we need to just keep building on. I'm excited about this month. We are going, yes, it is this month. Flies by so fast, but like I said, on October 18th, we'll have Bruce Wilson, the Executive Director of the Workforce Alliance in North Bay, to look at other opportunities, how we turn this into an educational and training program sustainable in the county to build a new workforce, as it's always talked about. When we talk about improving the education in Lake County, the education, the degrees that are brought in here, there's still that workforce that, as we said, won't be going to colleges or other places, and this could be a great work opportunity. They could start out as a hand crew, as you heard from the chief, could be working to EMT, or a complete job, whether it's with a fire district here in the county or CAL FIRE throughout the state, giving different opportunities for folks in that workforce that really isn't into the education process, but really want to get up in the morning, see work done, help their community, and see a project completed at the end of the day that just makes everybody safer. So that's really what I have to say. I'll turn it over to Jessica or Tammy, whatever. All right, we'll turn it right over to Tammy.
So as Mug said, we entered into contract with NCO and...
If I can ask you to move the microphone a little closer to you to make sure everybody in the Zoom room can hear you.
Yes. Is that better?
Perfect.
Okay. So as Supervisor Simon said, we entered into contract in July, and so I am here to do this first of hopefully many report outs. A lot of it you've already heard today, so I'll be doing a lot of recapping. And I have a slideshow here.
Oh. If you don't mind using your mouse and clicking OK.
Okay.
You didn't know you were here for that.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so back in February of 2021, the RRA met and had a retreat and came up with the following priorities. These were expanded when I got the list, because as I said, I was a part of the RA, but I wasn't as involved until July. So I'm excited to note that all of these are in process. Every single one of these points that were made or plans are at some point being accomplished or working on. So I'll go into more detail in each of the future slides, but again, all of them are at some point of implementation. Next one. Do I have to do it or? So who's at the table now? We of course have Chairman Simon and Supervisor Paiska, and then each of our fire districts. As was just mentioned, we brought on some new directors, and we'll go into that with the next slide. But the members that are at the table that are reporting out monthly, there's just a list here. Cedar Springs Community Redevelopment Association, clerk, Scotts Valley Band of Homo Indians, the Epicenter, Lake County CAN, which is the new climate movement, the Fire Safe Councils, the CRD, U.S. Department of Forestry. All of these collaborations are just making the RRA what it is today. I feel like the momentum, even since I've come on in July, is just moving forward. We did have Chief Ciancio do a presentation. I believe it was in August. And then, as Supervisor Simon said, that we will have Workforce North Bay Alliance with Bruce Wilson. He's on the agenda for this month. And also Tara, the Tribal Eco Restoration Alliance with Lindsay Daly. She is also on to do a presentation this month. And our meeting this month is on the 18th at 3 p.m. And we'd love for all of you to join us. Next slide, please. So here's the new players at the table. These 4 entities have, since I've been on, joined the directors, and we're glad to have them. As I said, it's just we're pushing that rock uphill, and I feel like we're at the top of it, just ready to keep on going. Next slide, please. As Supervisor Paiska mentioned earlier, we have a Best Fits Grant Committee. As part of the Risk Reduction Authority, I saw that there were several entities that were going to go for this grant back in July, and they were all saying, oh, I think I'm going to go for this. I'm like, wait a minute. We can have 1 applicant per the county, and there's only 5 that are going to receive it for the state. So why don't we get together and talk about it and see who is the best fit, hence the name Best Fit. So we all came together, and we were at first meeting weekly just to try to see who was the best fit for each of the grants. We put together a spreadsheet, and we're just trying to keep on top of it. It's a challenge. Technically, I'm only 25% of my position with this, but NCO is allowing me a lot more, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. But the Best Fits Grant Committee, and anybody's available to come. We are in the process now of putting together some kind of code of conduct just to make sure that we're all being transparent. Got my 2 notes, sorry. And sorry. We just want to make sure that we're all on the same page, and that we enjoy anybody that hears about a grant. If you bring it to our attention, we'll talk about it here. We are going to, I said on a call yesterday, a webinar for, and actually I think it's my next slide. You can go to the next. So these are some of the agencies or the grants that we've written to. We've had guest speakers come and talk to the Best Fits Committee. The Sonoma County came and talked about the BRIC grant, which we all decided that is just a little out of our reach at this time. Maybe next year we can revisit that, but it was just a little more than we felt that we could bring on. Several of the PG&E grants were applied for by clerk for the North Shore Fuels crew. The AIM grant was just submitted through the Seagull Springs Community Redevelopment, the California Fire Safe Council, and CAL FIRE. There's a new grant that we're going to talk about this Thursday. It's called the Evacuation Routes Grant. And so I sat on a call yesterday for that, so I'm really excited. Because when I first heard about it, I thought, oh, this is exactly, it'll be a great fit to what Chief Ciancio is doing, and we can make it happen. And then I go back to my preparedness background, and I think, oh, here's what we can do. We can go into the homes, and we can talk about preparing, each of the individuals and their households, and make sure that they have a safe route to evacuate. And then I thought, well, wait, it's evacuation routes. Are they talking more about, clearing the brush and making sure it's a clear route? And come to find out, it's all of that. And so I think with everything that's going on in the county, some other slides that I'll show you, some other ideas that we have, and what North Shore is doing, I think that if we can collaborate all together, we can make such a strong program that is sustainable and will keep us safe. Next slide, please. So we did, another one of those priorities was to get the CMAT report, and so that was done a few months ago in May, and we are working on a committee, which I will also sit on, to talk about and start the work. Make sure that everything that was written into this proposal is happening, that we're getting that work done. And next slide. Okay, so my background is I've worked a long time with the AmeriCorps teams. I worked for the Office of Education with our local program. I've also worked with why am I losing it all of a sudden? Just every branch of AmeriCorps, from the Senior Corps to the VISTA members to the NCCC, National Civilian Community Corps. We've had 14 teams that worked with Hope City to build homes over the last 5 years, since the Valley Fire, 6 years. And so we decided when Hope City left that, well, we don't really need a team to come and build, and I was always able to steal the team away to do events such as the pictures there. And I will note that that top picture, the top left-hand picture, is actually an event where we did sound the alarm with the Red Cross in the neighborhood in Clear Lake that just burned. So in 2018, we did sound the alarm, and we went into those homes and placed alarms. So it's just kind of touching to think that, hopefully that may have had some impact. Anyways, so we have been rediscussing how we could get an AmeriCorps team here in Lake County, and kind of what they could be doing. I think that with this evacuation routes grant and some stuff that the Seagull Springs Redevelopment Committee has written for, it kind of is that other side to what Chief Ciancio is doing. So he's doing more of that mitigation, that fuel work, but we still need that preparedness and that, individual with people getting in the homes, making sure that they have their smoke detector, making sure that they know where their go bag is, where their stay box is, that they have their list of medications, that they have those things and that they're ready. So we have been asked to apply. We were okay to apply for round one, but we just couldn't pull the lodging together. So Supervisor Simon has met with the Central Park Association to try to get the dorms as a location for them to stay. But my idea is that if we could get the dorms for half of their term, which is from January 2nd or January 11th to April 1st, and then if we could get somewhere on the North Shore for the other half, that this would be the perfect opportunity for them to pick a neighborhood each week and just go into that neighborhood and infuse their knowledge of preparedness and make sure that our communities are ready and prepared for our next disaster.
I have a quick question on that. How many AmeriCorps members are you looking at bringing in?
So the AmeriCorps members are teams of 8 to 12, and they're 18 to 24-year-olds. They are very self-sustaining. They do need a kitchen as best. I mean, they could stay in hotels. They could stay in like tents, but I really don't want to put them, they're doing a lot of work for our community, so I feel like we need to kind of, that's why the dorms has worked out so well. But it's 8 to 12 of them, and a lot of times they can request 2 vehicles. It just, we can request anything, it doesn't mean we're going to get it.
Thank you.
And any other questions with the American?
Actually, I heard about this before, sorry. I didn't have my microphone on, but I heard about this briefly before, and so I talked to Lou, who runs the castle, and so I just needed to get more information from you all about, how many and what they need, things like that. Maybe there's something we can work out there, so I'll talk to you after about.
Perfect, yes. Okay, and next slide, please. And then events. My background is I'm all about the events, so I love the slide, we are going to do, I did work with the fair with the Fire Safe Council. We had a booth there. We'll be at the Heroes Health and Safety Fair, and of course the North Shore Fall Festival. I think a lot of the RRA is getting the word out there. I think that we have a great membership, but we can always grow it. And I'm looking to, originally we started to do some work with the COAD, and I really would like to pull the COAD back in and make sure that we do have a strong COAD here, because we haven't for so many years that I think that that's something that will help us to just make our whole county stronger and more prepared. And COAD is Community Organizations After Disaster. And next slide. And this is me, and you can reach me. I also put a plug in for Know Your Zone. Do all of you know your zone? Yeah? Huh? Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. All right, just to make sure. And that's it. And I can answer any questions as long as they're easy.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Supervisor Paiska?
So I'm super excited about this, Tammy. Thank you for doing the presentation. This has been the vision that we've had for the Risk Reduction Authority for a long time, to finally have that capacity and have someone that can see through everything that we're wanting to accomplish. And I was just wondering if you could take a moment and talk about the Fire Safe Council grant that you applied for your position.
Yes. So, and I thought that was written more in there. I must have skipped it on my notes. So we, NCO did apply for the California Fire Safe Council Coordinator Grant. And originally we were going to write the position that I would oversee somebody to do that work. And by the time we were done, it was switched over. So it's 75% of what would be my job with 25% match. And basically, it's just to keep doing what I'm doing, to make sure that, you know, the RRA is on track, to oversee this AmeriCorps team that we could get. Also, we did write in some CERT, which is community, oh, I'm getting my acronyms, too many of them. Community Emergency Response Team. NCO did have a grant last year to do a few of the trainings for the CERT. But that's kind of I think they're just all going to complement each other. I think that the CERT teams, which we have a lot of CERT trained folks up, you know, on Cobb and up there. There's a few others around, but if we could have, and many years ago there was a CERT team in Spring Valley, but if we could get, you know, a few of these solid CERT teams, I was really excited because I got a call a couple weeks ago from the OES manager, and he was asking if the CERT team was available to go hang door hangers. So I was like, yes, let me, you know, pull them together. And so we came together, and it was kind of a nice time because I am just taking on that program. I haven't been overseeing it for the last couple of years. And so I got in contact with them, and we had a crew ready to go, but we didn't end up being needed for that. They did get called out, though. They helped Red Cross open the shelter at the senior center. And so I just feel like all of those things together are going to make us stronger.
Yeah. And so we, Supervisor Simon and I asked this board for funding to enter into this contract with NCO. And so this contract, or if you get the grant for the Fire Safe Council, that's going to help sustain you even longer.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's pretty awesome. Thank you for everything. Yes, and more time. And that's one of the things that, you know, when we originally wrote the contract, we just were kind of shooting at how many hours she would need, and we definitely undershot that. So this is a way for her to be able to, you know, luckily NCO has been helping out with that. So very excited. Thank you so much for everything that you're doing. And one other thing, the CERT teams showed up at our vaccination clinics and were really valuable volunteers all throughout the spring.
Yes.
Supervisor Simon?
Yeah, I just want to follow up on that one. We did come to the board and ask for the funding that we are going to work diligently to make sure that it's self-sustaining on the grant opportunities that are out there for the Lake County Risk Reduction Authority. And I greatly appreciate, you know, obviously all of our members. We understand that, you know, as we move forward, there may be some contributions that are made from all the other agencies and other things. We're trying to collaborate on that, and we'll talk about that as a board as we move forward. But the critical work that needs to be done, I'm really excited has been started with the NCO coming on board. You know, one thing I know Tammy kind of went over was the first time in California's history to have a CMAT through the Lake County Risk Reduction Authority and the Forest Service. So I was excited about that. We're starting to, you know, really build that reputation out there that Lake County is stepping up with the Lake County Risk Reduction Authority, and something hopefully that'll be a model going forward. So I want to thank everybody for that support. And like I said, the hard work that's being done, and there's a lot of it, and we'll continue to try and just expand those opportunities for everybody. And the focus, the best fits really does highlight the funds that are available to Lake County, and whether it's through the Risk Reduction Authority and just support letters or other things for the agencies doing it, the most important thing is that those funds available are coming into the county, no matter what organization it is, because it's always job opportunity and creations, but also working on that overall CWPP plan once it's completed to get those projects done. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Supervisor Crandall.
Yes, thank you. And I just wanted to highlight that I thank you for coming to our Upper Lake Town Hall. I know last month you came to that, and it was very helpful. They're always giving presentations, and with your support there, it was very helpful for the public to know some of the things that were happening when it comes to the Risk Reduction Authority and what's going on. And nothing makes me more excited than to see something funded and then continuing on their own, self-sustaining. So, you know, good work.
And at this point in time, and I'm sorry if I just misunderstood. You have not yet received the grant that would continue that funding. You're working on it and hoping to get it?
Yes, we applied, we actually submitted on September 15th. It was due at the end of September, and we're hoping to hear before the middle of this month.
Okay. And if by chance it doesn't go through, what does the original contract that we provided the funds for, what does that go through?
I think that
Or
was.
have you already done your hours?
Yeah, it's 1 year. So she started July.
Okay.
One fiscal year.
Okay.
But how many counties were eligible, or how many grants were the Fire Safe Council giving out? Because it was counties that had experienced wildfire impact and had vulnerable populations, and wasn't it like 30 counties or?
Yeah, it was a high
think it was
number.
30.
We
I
felt
don't-
pretty
I don't think
good
they
about
even
it.
gave a number, but
32 counties that were impacted significantly by fire over the last couple of years. So I think we put the good program together. We put the, you know, what they needed in there, and I think we met the requirements, so we'll continue to follow up on. We're pretty optimistic that it would be the counties that were affected, and obviously Lake County was one of those that was affected by those, is on that list. So yeah, no guarantees, but ultimately we feel it's, as we say, a best fit for Lake County.
And I have that proposal if anybody wants to see it.
Yeah,
It was
we
a
wrote
strong
we
proposal.
sent in the letter of support, and it's for $175,000.
And again, I apologize if this is information that should already be known, but just checking in, since it's for Firewise Council, does they also help with the position that you've been requested to lead in the Risk Reduction Authority as well?
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. And the reason I'm bringing it up is we just had a good presentation from the fire chief. I just spoke about looking at 2 years just to make sure, because this is not something that we need today and not tomorrow. I want to make sure that this momentum with the risk reduction continues. It's good that we have another 8 months left with the original contract that we signed with the county. But if it doesn't come back, I'd love to look at multiple years just to make sure we're covered until we can make sure we receive those grants in case that we don't. Because I think it's too important to go little by little. We need to really think about much longer term processes, because this is not going away as far as a potential impact to our communities. We have to keep striving and keep working to make this happen. And I'm really happy that the Risk Reduction Authority has gained the level of momentum that it's gotten. It's so difficult to start something as large as this, because it does take time. You have to be patient. You have to build the building blocks, and then eventually you can get that momentum, and we're there. I'm really feeling that, and I'm really happy that we've persisted through the whole entire birthing of the process, and have a unique situation as well in the state of California that people can model based on what Lake County is doing. So very, very proud of what's the work is going on. So thank you very much to the committee and to all those that are taking part of it. Any further comments before we open it up for the public? Let's go ahead and open it up for the public. Raise your hand or come to the microphone if you're on the in the board chambers. Seeing none in the board chambers and seeing none in the Zoom room. Oh, we have phone 6205.
Good morning. I'd like to ask, this is Bart Levinson, and I, being a Valley Fire survivor, followed what happened with the dormitory from the beginning, and I'm a little confused about the status now. What we were told at the time was that Hope City agreed to build the dormitory to give to the county for the county's use. So that Hope City in return would, for a number of years, house volunteers to help build homes after the Valley Fire. And that at the end of their time in Lake County, that Hope City would hand that dormitory back to the county. And I believe there was also $1 million that was given by I'm sorry, I'm not remembering the name, the Lily Langtree big resort project. So I want to bring attention to, well, where has that important asset for the county that we Valley Fire people waited for our homes to be built so that that could be built first. We suffered so that could happen. Where is it now? Why isn't it in the county available for good works use like is being talked about today?
Okay, I'll go ahead and I can answer
Please.
both those, that comments, Bart. So the dormitories were built on Central Park. The Central Park Association that owns that property is the owner of that building. It is not, or was not, that was before my time, but I'm almost 100% positive, not going to be built and given to the county. That was a program that was done between Hope Crisis Network and Hope City and the Central Park Association. They tore down the old senior center there that was their building on that, and it was rebuilt. So now the Central Park Association, which I've attended the meetings and made the request to use the facility, that is their facility, not a county facility. The $1 million that you spoke about that was given to Hope City to rebuild homes was from an individual, and that was given directly to Hope City to build those homes. I know that the homes that were going to be built, they have finished their work here in Lake County. I think altogether, if I remember right, it's about 51 homes that were rebuilt, whether it was through coordination of direct funding or Hammers for Hope, the Calhoun program, or others that were completed. But I hope that answers both your questions, Bart.
Thank you very much for that response. And let me go ahead and unmute her again. Apologize, I thought you were done.
Thank you so much. Yes, so why is the Central Park group not allowing the dormitory to be used?
Nobody has said that. Nobody has said that at all. They've been approached at just a public meeting. They have not declined anything.
So I know that they were asked a couple of months ago, what's hanging this up?
Well, associations take time to make decisions. I don't think there's any hang up. I just will continue to follow up. The dorms, obviously, January 11th is a little ways away. We've got plenty of time, and we'll continue to follow up on that. And as we heard in today's discussion, there may even be another opportunity here in Lake County. So we did not...
We missed the whole last round for NCO for AmeriCorps, and that's such a loss to our county when we so badly need the help.
We did not put ourselves in a corner where if one option didn't work out, we didn't have another. So as we've spoken, even at the Risk Reduction Authority meetings, whether there's another spot in the north side of the county, which was spoken a little bit about with Supervisor Crandall, but we also looked at hotel opportunities and other things. They've stayed in many different areas, and we would never tie ourselves into one shot, and if we don't get it, then we're in trouble. So we always have a backup plan, and like I said, other potential opportunity on the North Shore, and also hotels being able to step up throughout the county also. So we're working on all those, Bart, and we'll keep you updated. And if you attend the Lake County Risk Reduction Authority, you'll get an update on a monthly basis.
Thank you very much for the responses. I see no further hands up in the Zoom room, and I see no further hands as well in the board chambers. And so bringing it back to the board for any final comments before we conclude this item.
I just want to thank Tammy. I want to thank NCO. Our CAO's office was really instrumental in getting this contract together. And, we're going to plan to be here every quarter and let you all know what's going on every step of the way.
I think the last thing to say on this is, one agency too, I think when we had our list of agencies, there's the Lake County Prescribed Burn Association that it's been started in the county. I know they've been attending, Mike Jones, I think, is the one that's been spearheading that in our area. So I'm hoping by our next quarterly report, there are going to be projects where we have some prescribed burn opportunities that are happening in Lake County. So excited about the future, especially moving into 2022, and mitigation efforts are going to happen during that time. So thank you.
So I just also too, I didn't mention this, but Carol and Carolyn have been just a great support to us and really helped us. My coworker Angelina does the minutes and the agendas, and they've really supported us. And I just want to say thank you for that.
And I know this has nothing to do with the risk reduction, but thank you very much to both you and Angelina as well for all the help that you've provided to all the fire survivors from Cache Fire who are still displaced at this moment in time and getting help and assistance through your agency. So I just wanted to make sure and say thank you for that while you're here. And that looks like that will conclude that item, so thank you very much for your presentation. Looks like we didn't throw the hard balls.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on to item 6.6, 10:40 a.m. Consideration of urgency ordinance amending water hauler ordinance prohibiting water hauling to commercial agricultural operations, including cannabis cultivation sites. So I put this together. I'm sure you all remember back in August, I believe it was August 31st that I put on my memo. We had a conversation about urgency ordinance about water hauling. It was originally intended to be for all cannabis. We reduced it to just illegal cannabis. And upon approval, had further conversations, and we kind of cut the enforcement of that ordinance at its knees in the sense that there's no way that we can go after our water haulers when they have absolutely no knowledge of what's a legal grow, what's an illegal grow, and not to say a statement that can be misconstrued, but our sheriff department have to call and ask for that information as well because it's just not common knowledge. And we're working on a better system to be able to have an overall understanding of what's a legal grow and what's illegal, but that's not just, it's not readily available. And so to expect water haulers to know these things is not possible, and for us to start finding them when they don't have that knowledge is also something that's not going to work for us. And so I work to renew it in order to make sure that we have the ability to enforce the ordinance, and I am bringing it back to you as another urgency ordinance, meaning that today it would require a 4/5 vote in order to be approved and start to be enforced as of today. And I am going to share my screen real quick for just a quick presentation. Let me see if that works. Okay, so originally, water hauling ordinance was aimed solely at illegal cannabis. That's what we approved. That created enforcement issues. After speaking with the Ag Commissioner and the Farm Bureau, they shared their support to ban water trucks for all commercial agricultural operations, as that is not the way that crops are typically dealt with for watering. It's just not feasible economically to use water trucks for that type of commercial activity. After reviewing the conversations being had in community development, it would appear that a drought does not meet the emergency exception as well. That is something that right now we're receiving some phone calls and some comments saying, hey, I'm bringing water trucks because I don't have access to water. There are conversations saying, well, the emergency is meant to be if your pipes break, if your pumps break, which is what I brought originally to the board, but because we didn't want to go after the legal cannabis, we got rid of all that. I'm bringing this back as a proposal because we have to better plan for situations. A drought is a long constant. Some would say it's been going on for the past few years, not just this year, and definitely prior to planting this year, it was well known in advance that we were already in a drought. Water trucks damage our roads. Water trucks are taking water from areas that we're unaware of where it's coming from. That's a separate issue that we're going to be dealing with in the near future. But it's also very specific in that ordinance for legal cannabis that delivering commercial water is not acceptable except for emergencies, and I want to help community development who's having these back and forth conversations to let them know what emergency means in those situations. So in this ordinance amendment, I created a new definition called commercial agricultural operation, which I got from the California State Water Board. Then I used our definition of agricultural use from our Article 68. And then in commercial agricultural operations, I said that it covers all agricultural uses. If you look at our definition of agricultural uses, it also has animal husbandry, raising of animals. I excluded those because we need to make sure that we don't have animals that are being hurt by not having access to water. That, in my opinion, is just ethically wrong. So we excluded that. And then added also that under commercial agricultural operations, it's legal and illegal cannabis operations as well. So this covers all crop-bearing commercial agricultural activities in our county. Also, there was a restriction. I spoke with the county of Mendocino. They are actually taking our ordinance. They're trying to carbon copy what we're doing. They're having a lot of struggles with water trucks too. And they added the no deliveries between 12 a.m. and 5 a.m. I did have conversations with Supervisor Payska about this as we discussed other water issues. And I know that there was support for having that on there, and so I made sure to have that. And one of the reasons this came about is from a conversation, and I'm going to describe a conversation that I didn't have, but between Supervisor Payska and a fire chief, that in the early morning, because water trucks spill water continuously, that it makes the road very slick. And so if we can try to eliminate the overnight water issues where you can't really see it on the road and there's the potential for sliding, let's go ahead and eliminate that. And of course, with the type of activity a water truck brings, it's not exactly quiet. And so for the people living nearby, at least it can also reduce the noise disturbances. And so those are the changes that I've offered in the ordinance. I believe that's the last of my slides. I'll keep that up for a second. And those are, again, looking at it as a whole. We have water trucks that are typically never involved in agricultural crops that are now absolutely involved in agricultural crops. We need to ensure that water trucks understand that these things are not supposed to be done in that way. Obviously, if you're dealing with illegal cannabis, they should know better. But at the same time, we don't have any rules, we don't have any regulations. It's hard to tell the difference. And having a water hauling ordinance amended in such a way that says, look, all ag for crops, if you're going to deliver water, that means that that garden has not been well prepared enough to have that activity. Or there was a mistake in the analysis of that land use permit in saying that you can do that activity. We have to be better prepared, because if we have a problem in one area where a well turns dry, by saying yes to water being trucked to that property, we're going to impact another property that we never actually analyzed in our CEQA analysis, and we don't even know where that property is, because eventually it's just taking water. Again, there's some other outlying work that is being done between Supervisor Payska and myself. We'll discuss some of that actually a little bit later in the agenda, but this is one step in helping curb some of the issues that we are seeing. I know that when we did pass the ordinance the first time, I got a lot of phone calls from water truck owners, and so obviously we have their attention. The ones that I receive phone calls from are definitely ones that wanted to do the right thing and not have an issue. I did get one comment about this, and it says nowhere in there that this is that you can't do this. They were asking about dust control, because they do have their trucks coming through to pick up their products that they're harvesting. This only talks about for crops. If you look at the definition of agricultural use, dust control can be for construction use, for many different uses. It does not cover dust control. I did also make sure and add a line at the beginning of section 1 of the ordinance that says this does not cover construction and it does not cover residential use deliveries. Want to make sure, I know we've had those conversations where we get those phone calls where it's a little confusing. Is it everybody? Is it just some people? Again, this is only for commercial agricultural operations minus the animals. And I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen and open for any questions or comments. Supervisor Scott.
My question to you, with our ordinance, how it sits right now, have we been successful in going after any of the water trucks to date? Do we know?
I know that Susan Parker is on here, or maybe CAO Hutchinson might be able to respond, but my answer to that is I believe it is 0.
I believe it is 0, but let's let Susan Parker speak.
Oh, you just remuted yourself.
past board, it has been 0. We do have one pending that we're pursuing, but to date, as far as fully citing, it's 0.
And is the reason for 0 is because we have no boots on the ground to go after these trucks, or is it because the ordinance is too vague? We don't know if it's an illegal grow or a legal grow.
I believe primarily it's staff capacity, right, at this point in time.
Thank you.
And what I would say to that is, while it is staff capacity, I want to make sure that they have the full tools to be able to go through the entire process rather than being halted by not having the enforceability within that law. Because again, it felt like it was cut at the knees with the changes that we made.
No, I definitely agree, and I think this needs to rise as a priority. These are phone calls that I'm receiving, that there's water trucks just constantly in and out of properties taking water. We don't know where the water's going. We don't know if it's going to an illegal grow or agriculture, or if it's going to help homeowners, but we need to be making sure that we are on top of this. We're in a drought. We don't have the water to be going out, and my concern too is that a water is being taken from Lake County and moved to different counties in the area.
Right. And as an add-on, I'm not sure that I provided this information. I did meet with Susan Parker to discuss this item prior to bringing it to the board, and she did also have the ability to review the ordinance prior to bringing it to the board. Supervisor Paiska.
So we are pretty much at the end of the growing season for most all crops. So in reality, I think this sets it up for next year. We have to plan that it won't rain. We have to plan that we're going to continue in this weather pattern. And so, you know, this is just working out the tweaks for next year, and everyone will have the full understanding when they plant their gardens and farms next year. You cannot truck water to a farm. And I think just this is front loading our property owners and our business owners that are, you know, planning their farms for next year. This is making everything crystal clear. And as Supervisor Sabatier and I mentioned, we have more conversations later today, and we are going to continue this work pretty much indefinitely, because this is the reality of our new climate.
Supervisor Crandall?
Yes, I wanted to say that I appreciate the changes. They address all of the concerns that I had with the after the initial ordinance that we passed. And so a lot of the things that are brought forward, especially in regard to focusing on you know, the illegal crops and whatnot. One of the biggest things is we don't want to punish people that are doing the right thing, especially when they're not sure who they're actually delivering water to. You know, so I appreciate that was stated earlier, and I'm agreeable to the changes that are made. So, thanks.
Any other comment from Supervisor? Supervisor Simon?
Yeah, you know, obviously I was the one, you know, who made the change, you know, at the last thing. You know, I still believe, and I still am to the point that if we're going to have an industry here and it's going to be moving through, that we need to support the ones that are permitted. I guess that question would go to Susan. You know, we do have, when the last report that came to CDD, that we had almost 65 to 67 permits that have gone through the entire process that are out there. My question to Carol, or well, actually to Susan, I guess, who's on the line right now, Susan Parker, would be, you know, there's no opportunity to get out there and to get posted which ones are permitted, to make that opportunity so these folks can, you know, continue on this year. Yeah, I agree with long-term planning and those types of things, but you know, every industry has to figure out how to survive. I mean, we had all the businesses and other stuff do that right now, and I understand that when we talk about the water haulers, you know, we're talking about if we're cutting that off, this is cutting off jobs and opportunities for them, and a part of our economy that may not have been there before. There are people probably that have been hired to drive these extra trucks and make deliveries, so that is a part. You know, we're not just talking about the cannabis industry, but the ancillary businesses that support these businesses. So, you know, I know this is probably not the popular conversation today, but we got to look at it from both sides. So that's what I'm doing. I'm bringing it up. That's why I brought it up last time. And, you know, I think we still need to really work to support the legal business. And I know that's a challenge. And I think, you know, Supervisor Scott touched on it too with making the change in this. What type of implementation process is this ordinance really going to have, because since we've done the last ordinance, there probably have been deliveries to illegal cannabis grows, and at this point, there hasn't been any action taken. And it is already now October. We are looking hopefully to go into winter here pretty soon. It may not rain, you're right, it could be, but nobody knows that 100% for sure that it's not going to rain. So anyway, those are some of my questions, but I really, for Susan, I'd really like the question, posted permits on these cannabis grows, where is that, and what type of opportunity do we have to improve on that?
Well, the legal grows are required to post all their permits. However, we are exploring posting the urgency water hauler ordinance at the roadside of the legal grows that can accept water deliveries. Does that help answer your question?
Yeah, a little bit. Just to look at it from a practical standpoint, obviously, every license, ABC liquor license needs to be posted. You can't be having a beer delivery truck out front of something that does not have a license posted in the business. And I know the folks delivering, that stuff under an ABC license is the same thing. So my thought would be, it would be something pretty simple to figure out on what is a legal cannabis grow and what is not, for the opportunity of delivering water. But I understand there's a deeper conversation that you're bringing up, Supervisor Sabatier, whether or not this is an emergency under that. And I know we're doing some other work, and the ordinance that we have put in place definitely is, we're working on updating that and looking at those changes that need to be done. This is one of those that we'll have a continued conversation as we're redoing that. So I understand why you brought it, but I just want to bring up all the conversations on both sides.
No, and it's, the conversation is useful to get to either a better understanding or a better solution. So I appreciate the comments, absolutely. Any further comments from board members? Ms. Graham.
I didn't mean to raise my hand for the board members. I was just too fast. I just wanted to make sure that there's clarification here that the ordinance, this urgency ordinance, if approved, is not just illegal cannabis, it's all commercial growing of any kind, including cannabis. So
yes,
when I heard about posting with regard to illegal, if this is passed, it will encompass legal and illegal as well as any other commercial ag.
Indeed. Thank you very much for that. Let's go ahead and open it up for the public, and let's go ahead and start in the Zoom room. We have 2 people. Let's start with Dan Terrell.
Hey, good morning. My name is Dan Terrell. I live out in Jerusalem Valley. I got a chance to go through the ordinance last night. The original commercial cannabis ordinance. And, it talks about water being supplied for emergency use. And I used to work in law enforcement. I worked for 8 years down in Napa. And we talk a lot about intent and, what's the intent of the law and what's the letter of the law. And I don't think the drought as an emergency for normal people, yes, it is an emergency. For animals, yes, it is an emergency. For somebody's cash crop, it's not an emergency, so it fails. Just on the letter of the law. The intent of the law, I can't imagine that the framers who wrote up this ordinance thought that somebody would have 450,000 gallons of water, which is what it takes to supply an acre of cannabis through the season. 450,000 gallons of water trucked in through the course of the year through water trucks. The impact on the local community, on the environment, on the roads, on the breathable air through the dust particulate isn't measured currently. We have an air filter inside our house. I get about 10 water trucks all hours of the day and night through my easement every day, 10 water trucks. for both legal and illegal cannabis. And that air filter needs to get changed out every week. And this is stuff that my kids are breathing in. And it's, you know, I think we live in the cleanest, we're supposedly the cleanest county for air breathing, you know, breathing air that's in the state. And I'm having a hard time picturing this right now on top of the noise of the trucks coming through. And these people have had water delivered since June. That's not an emergency, that's poor planning. That's absolutely poor planning. Another neighbor had ran his well dry, dug through 4 properties with an excavator to get to a different water source, ran that one dry, and is now having water trucked in so he can get his $1 million crop out. I'm all for jobs. As Supervisor Simon pointed out, this is affecting people's lives, not just the growers, but the people that they support. It's affecting the water truck delivery people as well. But what is happening isn't responsible, and it's not helping our community. It's definitely not helping the environment, and this is going to be long-term. You know, if you read the literature that's coming up.
If we can get to your final comment, your 3 minutes are up.
All right, cool. This is long-term. Global warming is happening. We're going to see boom and bust with water. So what we're doing now, what you're doing now, is super important. It's like it's written for me, and I appreciate it. Thank you for writing this up. That's all.
Thank you for your comment. Next is Jennifer Van Dyke.
Hi there. I'm an environmental scientist for the California Department of Cannabis Control. I work in licensing. I would like to point out what I understand is that there are 2 issues that are trying to be addressed here. One of the issues is identifying legal and illegal grows and being able to tell the difference. And the other issue is the county penalizing trucks for serving illegal grows. It's not true that there is no way to tell who is illegal or legal. For the state to issue a cannabis cultivation license, the county has to give approval. We maintain lists with the county of who is legal, and legal growers are required by state regulations to post their license outside of their premises so that it is identified as a legal grow. In order to solve the issue, DCC is committed to supporting our legal cannabis grows. And if the county is willing to work with us on maintaining a list on who actually has a license, then I don't see any reason why the county cannot communicate that list to their approved water haulers so that they know who is a legal grow and who is an illegal grow. I think it's irresponsible to allow, to basically allow illegal growers to receive this water. I know that there's an issue in getting boots on the ground and enforcing this, and there's a ton of illegal grows out there, and we're aware of that also. But in terms of identifying who is legal, the state is willing to work with the county to provide an updated list on who is legal, and then you can provide that information to the water haulers so that we are not enabling illegal growers to continue to use a state resource such as water, which is so important and desperately needed right now, especially for legal growers who jumped through all the hoops, paid all the money, and done the CEQA and got their permits to be able to have their cultivation license. So I understand that this ordinance, this change in ordinance, is to not penalize the legal growers, but there are avenues for the county and water haulers to identify who is a legal grower. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next is Jennifer Smith.
Good morning, board. Thank you to the previous Jennifer for pointing out that the legal farms do have our licenses, our state licenses and our local permits posted at the entrance. So I think that alleviates one of the questions. I completely understand the reasoning behind this and support it. I would just ask for a clearer definition of what is an emergency and what is the process for getting that emergency water delivery approved, and that it be handled in a timely manner. So I'd like to be able to manage those expectations from both the county side and the farmer side so that we know we're not going to wait 3 or 4 days, possibly over a weekend, without water when it truly is an emergency that wasn't caused by ourselves. And that's, I think, preferred, and I can support this knowing that.
Thank you very much for your
Thank you.
comment. And let's go ahead and go in the boardroom. Come on up to the microphone. Give us your name, and you have 3 minutes.
Joan Moss, I think you're going to run into a lot of problems. Commercial agricultural use. I think that includes vineyards. And I think that people can grow 6 marijuana plants for their personal use. And they might have a couple of children. And then their well goes dry. And they need water for their children, maybe a couple horses. This is Lake County. It's not all one or all the other. I helped fill out an application, a state application for a neighbor, and that state said, if you have an emergency water shortage, you should connect with Office of Emergency Services. The state said that. Is Dale Carnathan responsible for delivering water to families who have dry wells, who might have a couple of marijuana plants? I think there's a lot of, it's not either this or that. This is Lake County. Everybody's here, and everybody needs water, including children. Thank you.
So
I don't all live in the city.
I
live in the country.
Okay, thank you. I will repeat some of the things that have already been stated. Number one, this does not impact residential. It only impacts commercial. Having 6 personal plants is not commercial. So all of the things that you just said are not covered by this ordinance. Those people will still have access to water. It states specifically in the ordinance that it covers commercial cannabis based on Chapter 27.13 AT, which is only for commercial. The adult use is somewhere else. I think it's letter Z somewhere in that article. No, but it covers the vineyards. Absolutely, it covers the vineyards, because the vineyards would never be vineyards if they had to truck water in. You would have a non-stop slew of water trucks coming in every single day just to have that. A vineyard is not a viable option if you want to use water trucks to have your product grown. That is why I've gotten the approval from the Ag Commissioner and the approval from the Farm Bureau of Lake County that they are perfectly fine with saying all commercial agricultural operations do not use water trucks, because they do not. So just want to make sure and reiterate those points. Sorry, your turn. Please give us your name, and you have 3 minutes.
My name is Mike Mitzel. So I guess I find it a little hard to believe that code enforcement, whose office is inside community development, can't figure out who's legal and who's not. Like, they're literally the same department. So the whole memo that you wrote, it says, basically it's for enforcement of that other ordinance. It makes it too hard to enforce the other ordinance because nobody knows who's legal. But how does code enforcement not know what grow is legal? It just doesn't make any sense to me.
I never said that.
But that's
water haulers don't know.
But code enforcement and CDC are enforcing the ordinance. So before they enforce it on a water hauler, they're obviously going to know if there's an ordinance on, or if there's a permit on the property or not. So it just doesn't seem like it makes a lot of sense, because the enforcement agency is the agency that's giving the permit. So they obviously know who has a permit. My other point is, if you have a permitted grow and they run low on water, I just really don't understand why that's not an emergency. I understand not wanting them to grow their whole crop forever on water deliveries. That's clear. Nobody wants that, and it doesn't make any sense. But if you have a property that's been sustainable the last 3 years, their well goes dry now, why not let them get water deliveries while they should have to put in force another plan, drill another well. There should be things that need to be done. They can't just rely on them forever, but for some period of time, If your well runs dry, you should be able to get water deliveries as a legal grow. It just doesn't make any sense to tell them there's 1 month left in your $1 million crop and just cut it down and throw it away because you can't get a couple weeks of water delivery in the worst drought in 30 years. I just don't understand why you have to go after the legal grows to enforce this when there's so many better ways to enforce illegal cannabis. You look at other counties like Humboldt, they use the GIS and like a Google Earth that you guys have access to now, real-time Google Earth. Sending out abatement letters works a lot better than going after the water truck guys. If you really want to get rid of illegal cannabis, there's much better ways to do it. Only a small percentage of illegal cannabis even uses water trucks. It's not like every illegal grow in the county is getting their water delivered. But every illegal grow in the county is on Google Earth, and every illegal grow in the county can be sent an abatement letter. So if you really want to stop illegal grows, there's better ways than attacking water haulers and trying to change the cannabis ordinance through an urgency ordinance when really, if you want to do this, it should be a real ordinance, and it should go through public comment, and it should be done right. That's exactly why we're back here, because the last time it shouldn't have been an urgency ordinance. You should have just done the ordinance the real way, and then we wouldn't be coming back every 30 days. So thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
I have a response.
What was that? Oh, yeah, please.
So in my district, we have water trucks running 24/7. They're destroying the roads. The roads are literally crumbling. And when you say, what's the big deal about getting some water delivered, ask yourself where that water comes from and what ecosystem that water is being diverted out of to support a farm that legally had to have its own water source. That's why this is an important issue, because we have wetlands that are dry, we have roads that are crumbling, and this is not a sustainable farm if you don't have enough water. Now we're talking about having some emergencies in here. If you have pipes break, if there's a short-term issue, then that can be talked about. But when you have legal grows that are trucking in every single day for 2 seasons, that is a problem. And that's what this is meant to address.
Thank you very much. Any further comments in the boardroom?
Good morning. Tom Neckel from Scotts Valley Water Conservation District. I'd like to encourage the Board of Supervisors to amend this ordinance 3110. It sounds sound to me, and most of you have probably heard my concerns about the water that's being extracted out of my neighbor's well and sold. The water in an aquifer belongs to everybody in that community, and they are not making a profit on it. They're just using it to exist or grow their legal crop or farm or water their livestock. The other thing I'd like to mention is the ordinance says from midnight to 5 in the morning. I would like to recommend that it go from dusk to dawn. There's a water truck leaving Scotts Valley in the evening for maybe or maybe not clandestine reasons. I think that might curb some of this. And anyway, I encourage amending this ordinance. This water belongs to everybody, not just one individual that's making a profit. And I know this water's going to illegal and legal pot grows, because that's what this guy sets up. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Any further comments, both in the Zoom room or in the boardroom, before we close public comment? And seeing none, let's bring it back for further deliberation. Any further comments from board members? Supervisor Scott?
You know, I do like the idea of amending the time. I don't think there's any reason why somebody should be hauling water after, let's say, 9 o'clock at night or 8 o'clock at night. I just don't see the reason for that. I think we would have a better handle on this if it was done during the day where it could be seen. But I don't know what time, what would be the best. I think dawn to dusk would be hard because it changes. I think we need to have set times. but I think it needs to be a little bit broader.
And I'm okay with changing the times. I think that 5 a.m., in my opinion, should not change, just because my goal in the long run is to bring this back and make this a non-urgency ordinance. Right now, it states that it only lasts through the declared drought emergency, but I think we need to be wary of the damage that trucks can do if we don't have some sort of regulation on what they can do and how they can do it. Again, our roads being damaged and water being taken from areas that we're absolutely unaware of. So I think 5 a.m., especially farmers start very early in the day, and so I'm thinking future-wise that 5 a.m. is good, but I'm willing to go down to maybe 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. or something like that for moving that earlier time. I do want to speak on some of the things that was brought up. I'm just going to be blunt. I'm saddened that the BCC is actively trying to say that water trucks are okay. I'm very saddened by that, because that is not a part of our analysis of the environmental impact of the land use, which means that at any point we can just, whether it's June, whether it's July, or whether it's towards the end of harvest, it's perfectly fine for water trucks to start their operations to make sure that these crops can continue. These crops need to be self-sustainable within the property that they're being grown in, and planning is the key of being successful. And I will say that just in the past week or so, it's been frustrating to help solve some of the problems when we're only being told of these problems a week before we need to find a solution, because there is an absolute lack of planning at this moment in time, in my opinion, by the industry to do everything correctly. And so we go through this arduous process to review your hydrology, not so you can go get water somewhere else. We review the process to know the impact, but if we don't know you're using water trucks, that's a whole different traffic study, when that traffic study is a part of the process of reviewing your use permit. You can't just add things because it works for you, and I've been here continuously when we've been saying no water trucks, and all of a sudden, oh wait, I need water trucks. So we can't change because of personal needs. We have to figure out how to remain within the guidelines, and we have to plan ahead in order to meet those guidelines. And yes, there's going to be some sacrifices, but the sacrifice of the person who wants to use their land for a specific project that we've gone through an arduous process should not be also the sacrifice of the neighbors that are now dry, which is why that you are getting water somewhere else, who may impact other neighborhoods that may be impacted by the water that you're extracting. It's just doesn't make sense to me that we go through these processes and yet that this would be okay. I was very happy to have the conversations with both our Ag Commissioner and our Farm Bureau to share their support that this is not the way Ag works. The way Ag works is you plan, and if you can't, you diminish what you're planning to do. It is not feasible for our communities to have this continuing, and it's not feasible for this industry to blossom if that's the way it's going to behave. There was a comment about the emergency. I did not write out a definition of the emergency. I think that requires more time and more, the portion that says that water delivery can be made available if it's an emergency. All I did in this one is state that a declared drought emergency is not an emergency. It's a long-lasting situation. An emergency, again, would be more along the lines, which seems to be the conversation happening up in CDD between County Council and CDD, that it's something that has occurred a surprise that has occurred, unexpected occurrence, such as broken pipes or broken pumps that requires some time to resolve, which at that point it does make sense that this is an emergency. So I'm frustrated Yes, we need to support it, and there's been a lot of support to get this going, a lot of trials and tribulations to get this going, and I get it that there's frustrations with where some people are and where some people are not. But this is not, in my opinion, some of the discussion that has just been had and some of the comments made is not, in my opinion, a way forward. We have to figure out how to make, we've said it multiple times, why are vineyards and cannabis seen differently? They shouldn't be. So let's treat them the same. We're offering to treat everyone the same right here, and this is how farming is done. So I'm going to leave it at that. Any further comments or action? Supervisor Simon.
Yeah, I just had one question on an agricultural property, say walnut orchard, a vineyard. Are they allowed to pump water or get water from one parcel to another? Do you know that? Do you have an answer to that question, or do we have anybody online that can do that?
I would ask Ms. Parker to respond, but my belief is yes, and in fact, in our ordinance for cannabis, as long as it's approved by the neighboring parcel to bring water from that parcel over, but that's part of the plan that you would submit in your application. And I remember we went through that. When one of the applicants told us of their issue and having access to water, and we added that in because that was part of a standard farming practice, that it may not come directly from this parcel, but comes from the other parcel.
And so my question, not to cannabis, but to the other agricultural industries, are the same studies done for those industries that we're asking to have done for the cannabis industries? So if it's a vineyard and I own 200 acres, but across the street is where my water is, but I'm not planting over there, I'm just bringing the water from over there. Do we do studies on that for the agricultural industry? Does anybody know? I don't have the answer for that, but I just had a question. Just came up when you were making some comments.
So I do know when you're at least the obvious one, because grading is there's a lot of gray in grading, how much dirt has to be moved and so on. But if you're going from native plants over to agricultural, you're going to have to get a grading permit, go through the CEQA process, what's your land use, and at that point you would have to prove where your water was coming from.
Even under the agricultural exemption opportunities that are out there for the ag industry in Lake County?
It depends where you fall within the CEQA process. And again, Ms. Parker, if you're able to respond, or if there's anyone else from the department that can respond.
Because I thought ag exemption means they were exempt from my understanding, because I've had vineyards that in my area that said, well, it was previous ag at 1920, and now we're redoing an ag exemption process that doesn't allow a lot of those things to happen. Or doesn't encourage allow.
Is that the Williamson?
Ag conversion.
And that's why I was saying, from native soil, definitely you got to go through that process, but once you convert, it all depends. Are you ripping out tree roots and moving enough dirt that it would actually trigger a grading process or not? That's where the gray area is, that it's on a project-to-project basis.
Okay. Well, I'm going to follow up on that and just get some more information.
Okay. Ms. Parker, did you have a response, or someone else that might be able to respond to that?
Well, what I was going to say, and I can talk to Moak after the meeting, is that every project is unique, so it's very hard to answer that question. There are some areas where an ag exempt would apply, but if he has a specific case, I'd be more than happy to look into it for him.
Yeah, I'll follow up with CD. So just a question.
Okay. Thank you very much. So any further comments or action?
I'll offer the words.
Do we need a second to that, or is that good enough? Offer the ordinance has been offered by Supervisor Scott. Johanna, roll call, please.
Okay, Supervisor Simon,
No.
Supervisor Crandall,
Aye.
Supervisor Scott,
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska,
Yes.
and Supervisor Sabatier.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And let's see where that leaves us. Let's move on to our 11 a.m. item, consideration of local jurisdiction assistance grant program. CAO Hutchinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you can imagine, Patrick Sullivan, our tax administrator, is going to present this item to you. We're requesting your approval to apply for the grant and seek your input into the content of our application.
Good morning, Board. So I'm here today to speak regarding the local jurisdiction assistance grant that's being offered by the Department of Cannabis Control. There was $100 million allocated in the state budget to help transition cannabis applicants to a full annual license and alleviate the backlog that has sort of hit many local jurisdictions. Lake County has been designated as being an eligible entity, and we have been assigned an allocation. Our initial eligibility was $884,000, with an additional $1.2 million due to us having an equity program. So this gives us a grand total of $2.1 million that has been allocated. CDD staff and administrative office staff have been in meetings and contact with DCC. The primary use of the funds that we are requesting would be to help alleviate our backlog through addressing the review process, primarily by using consultants and contractors to help support our staff here. What we are also exploring is whether some ancillary services in support of these efforts can be used for technology or equipment, but we are not yet sure of that. We're waiting for the state to get back. But generally from our discussions, staff currently believes that is probably the best use of this. The state has put this on a very tight timeline. They want to get the funds flowing as soon as possible. So we've been given a deadline of November 15th to submit our application, and they expect the funds to be awarded in December. The state has also indicated they expect to front load it, so hopefully the majority of that money would be available to the county for use with this process as early as December. So right now we were looking for direction on whether to proceed with this application process and whether the general concept of using it for consultants or contractors to support CDD is the appropriate action to take.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Anything further from CAO Hutchinson? Okay, let's go ahead and open it up for board members. Any comments or questions? I know that in the past we've used the equity stuff for code enforcement. Is it possible to use that to bolster our code enforcement as well, or not?
So, Supervisor Spatier, we were actually using a different Prop 64 grant to bolster code enforcement. We also have the Public Health and Safety grant, and those funds are currently allocated to code enforcement. This grant specifically bars the use of the funding for enforcement. They want this basically laser focused on getting people their final permit and license, getting through the backlog. So there's a lot of restrictions accompanying this grant to kind of keep it narrowly confined to that purpose.
Okay, no, I appreciate that. And also, we had an item earlier in our agenda, I believe it was 5.5, if I'm correct, for the extension of the contract for LACO. I know that there was it 3 others or 4 others? Was it 3?
A total of 4 bids were received, including LACO.
Right, so thank you for that. And so obviously we know of others who have the capability to do the same level of work that LACO has been doing. And so it looks like we're pretty much prepared to start looking at possible agreements with some of those companies, since we already did the RFP bids, and utilizing that money for that process, knowing that it's taken so long for so many people. It's just been an arduous process for our staff to be able to get through, especially with this being such a new industry and new ordinance and so on. So absolutely in favor. Any other comments? Looks like no. Open it up for the public. Any comments or questions? We've scared away our public from the board chambers, and no hands up in the Zoom room. So let's go ahead and bring it back for action.
This is just direction, correct?
Oh, I thought it was approval.
It says provide direction to staff. I'm obviously in favor.
Consensus that we should approve.
I'm in favor.
Yes.
Looks like you have your consensus.
Okay, thank you, board. And we'll have to return at a later stage for the formal approval of the grant agreement, probably at the end of next month or early November.
Perfect. Thank you very much for bringing that to our attention. It is 12:22 p.m. We have, I believe, 3 items in our untimed, and then 2 items that we put in on, or at least 1 extra item. Was it 2 extra items? And do we want to go through that and then hit closed session, or you guys want to lunch and then come back and continue? Looking for board census on this.
Well, I think you're going to need a break at some point to be most effective, I think, when you get to closed session.
Okay, so let's go ahead and go through the rest, and then we'll take a break and then do closed session. All right, 7.2, considering of forming a county comprehensive drought planning work group. And this is brought to the board by Supervisor Paiska and Supervisor myself. Supervisor Paiska, would you like to head this up?
Yes, thank you. So this is a grown, I'm on my wrong.
We need to take a break now.
Comprehensive drought planning work group. So, you know, we were in a drought. We have work groups that are focused on short-term solutions. But what we really need to be doing is, like I mentioned before, planning that this is our new way of life and really digging deep into our ordinances, you know, our protocols, and figuring out how we can do better. So initially, this group will meet with department heads, and we can take an internal look, proactive steps to adapt to climate change and ongoing drought conditions, addressing and managing water shortages, short-term and long-term sustainability plans, and then drafting updates to our applicable policies and ordinances. And once we do this work internally, then I would like to bring it back out into the public and have an opportunity to work closely with our subject matter experts throughout the county. So we did meet initially with some department heads. It was short, but we had a great little meeting, lots of really creative ideas to start with. And like I told the group, or we mentioned to the group, this isn't a sprint. This is a long-term process. You know, we let everybody know this isn't going to require all of your time right now. This is going to be a monthly or a meeting that is methodical. We'll have time to dig in deep, and it's ongoing. One of the things that we're missing in our general plan is our environmental justice element. And so this is some of the work that we can do to get there. So I don't know if Supervisor Sabatier has anything else to add, but the directors that we'd initially like to start with would be special districts, water resources, possibly public works, the health department, environmental health, our ag commissioner, our CAO's office, and air pollution control.
As well as,
but we can kind of move it as we go, depending on what is applicable, what our discussion would require.
Right.
And what we decide to work on as priorities.
And so what we decided was that we have a policy that no more than 8 hours of our department head's time. This is definitely a more than 8-hour type of situation. We are in it for the long haul. The idea is when there's a drought, we kind of ask the community, please conserve water. And those that truly want to do, and those that don't want to don't really have to. Like, there's no mechanism. And so we don't have any rules and regulations that tells us what does that reduction look like. We don't have rules and regulations for schools. What does that reduction look like? We need to have a more comprehensive plan where we're all working together to truly make the difference, rather than those same usual suspects that always want to step up and make things better for every one of us. And it needs to be a more comprehensive plan. Making that plan is going to require a lot of communication between the different types of agencies, different sectors of our economy. The idea, as was just mentioned, part of our general plan, what's lacking because it was put into place ever since 2017, is any general plan that's updated after 2018 needs a climate action plan. We do not have that part of it. This will help at least start the framework of a climate action plan within our general plan when talking specifically about droughts. And so these are things that do exist in many other jurisdictions and communities. We don't have that. We feel the need because we know that this is going to happen again and again. Let's be better prepared for the future rather than always trying to work and trying to figure out how to deal with the impact of droughts when we're in a drought. Let's have that forward thinking and be better prepared. So we're asking for the board to approve the creation of the planning work group for drought. Any questions or comments?
I would just add, Mr. Chair, that the administrative office will help you with the scheduling and the organizing and getting it rolling. So we'll work on that if you approve this.
Thank you very much. Let's open it up for the public. Any comments from the public on this item? And seeing none in neither the Zoom room or the boardroom, bringing it back to the board for action.
Just have one final comment on
Yeah,
that.
please.
Obviously, looking at the long-term goals, and I know we talked about, glad to hear special districts on there and other things. When we look at those opportunities for tertiary opportunities in treating our water and everything down the road, recharging, getting other water out, I think that long-term opportunity is there. And we look at that. One other thing too that really bugs me when we're talking infrastructure opportunities. I know we're in our long-term battle with Lake Pillsbury, but also looking through our general plan ordinance and other things, that we're looking to support any property owners that may want to be doing some damming or more, lake storage or other things like that, to be encouraged in Lake County, because I think that's going to be the long-term opportunity too, that we need to be looking at that stuff. And I know a lot of the stuff being built now is for agricultural reasons, but we need to look at that long-term sustainability. There's folks that do have water rights that are unable to store that stuff here in Lake County, and it goes down to other areas down below us, whether it's through Berryessa or other ways, into the Central Valley there. So looking at opportunities to engage local private landowners that have opportunities for storage through community development general plan, I think is real important for us looking at the long-term sustainability. So a couple of those issues, just want to bring those up. I know it'll be a long-term process, but I really want to do that. I was discouraged to see that the infrastructure bills that they're talking about at the federal level don't include building more dams and water storage. And I understand there's a lot of environmental concerns about that, but water is already gold, and it is going to be wars that we get into later on about this stuff. So looking at that long-term sustainability for Lake County, I think we really need to be encouraging that for our local folks that may have opportunities to do that, or larger projects here in Lake County that we could do. For years, we've all heard about dams that they potentially tried to build. I've heard in my district, Dry Creek area, at one point there was a conversation back 30 years ago or so, just in old folks' history, talking about building up dams and storages, other opportunities for us here in Lake County. And we need to be thinking about that for the long-term sustainability of ourselves. So just want to continue that conversation, make sure they're being had.
No, I appreciate the comments, and absolutely, we're on the same page. I know that one of the things, and on a slight side note, one of the things that really stood out in the election process that we just went through for the recall was the frustration with the little amounts of Prop 1 funds that have been available to jurisdictions for water storage projects. And I'm really hoping that that will help release some of those funds, because the conversation was so loud and so obvious that it was being made. And so hopefully the state of California will finalize the usage of those funds so that we have access. And absolutely we can look into that and have those discussions within the group. So couldn't agree more. Any further comments before action? Then action.
Is it consideration or is it a?
Mr. Chair, I move to form the County Comprehensive Drought Planning Work Group appointing Supervisor Pyska and Supervisor Sabate to serve, along with the dedicated county staff. Do I need to read off the dedicated county staff? Okay, thank you.
It needs to be fluid. I think it will be more effective.
Second.
We have a motion from Supervisor Simon and a second by Supervisor Pyska. Roll call, please, Johanna.
Okay, Supervisor Simon,
Yes.
Supervisor Crandall,
Aye.
Supervisor Scott,
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska,
Yes.
and Supervisor Sabate.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item 7.3A, consideration of agreement for training services leading for diversity, equity, and inclusion in county government, and B, direction to appointed management employees and encouragement to elected department heads to attend this training. CAO Hutchinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to start by expressing some gratitude to Pam Samick for putting this item together. Pam is enjoying a day off today, so I'll present it. Knowing that this type of training was an important priority for your board, Pam sought bids from qualified contractors, and ultimately we are recommending that we move forward with an agreement with Nicole Anderson. You may be familiar with Nicole. She actually was referred to us by CSAC. She recently provided online training for county supervisors and administrators. I was able to attend that training and was surprised at how engaged she managed to keep participants even in a Zoom environment. I was concerned, this will be in Zoom. People won't really be paying attention, and it wasn't like that. She keeps you engaged throughout the time. And so what we're proposing with this agreement is that all county management staff would participate, and so there's approximately 100 county management positions. In Zoom, the sky's the limit, but they would participate for 2 half-day sessions. And we're also asking that your board actually direct management employees to attend, and then for the elected department heads to strongly encourage them to attend as well. So again, Nicole Anderson is our provider of choice after looking at 3 different bids. Given her recent expertise with the CSAC training she provided, she has a program that is tailored to county service, and she also has lots of other experience, as you can see from our write-up. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Supervisor Crandall.
Yes, I attended that course as well. It was very intriguing. Actually, I consider myself kind of up to date on some of these things when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and I still needed to be taught specific things. She took you down a tour of even history that we're not even taught, and so in going into some of these different aspects and different historical information, it really helps to open even my eyes, even to things that I haven't even thought of, and so I think she's a great choice, and I would highly encourage everyone to attend that needs this type of training, because it just helps. It helps in general because people need to kind of have that empathetic type of mentality when it comes to working with different folks. So,
thank you for the comment. Any further comments or questions from the board? I see this as and I know this may come off bad for some of our staff. I see this as important as like our ethics class that we go through every year. It's important. I know it's a bit of a long stretch, and then also the sexual harassment that we go through. We just need to, we need to continue learning. We are customer service oriented. We deal with the public. We need to understand and comprehend how our words and our actions are perceived, and be better prepared to have a welcoming environment and atmosphere. And so I think that those things are for everybody, not just management, and it's for all staff that we need to learn those things. So absolutely, I know that I don't know that we're part of the management employees or not, but I want to be there because I want to have the same level of knowledge and understanding as what we're expecting our management to have. So I appreciate this coming through. I'll be honest, when I looked through the resume, it seemed very school-oriented. So I'm really glad that both CAO Hutchinson and Supervisor Crandall went through the class to let us know what they saw when they saw the presentation, and so that gives me a lot more comfort to absolutely say yes, or else I would think that maybe that wasn't the right training for a different type of environment. So thank you very much for taking time to go to that class and take part in that. So I'm ready to move forward and think this is absolutely important and a great step for us to take.
Mr. Chair, if I could just add that the intention would be to roll out training of this type to all county staff as soon as we possibly can, but this is a great starting point with our leadership folks.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. If there's no further comments or questions, let's go ahead and open it up for the public. Any comments or questions from the public? All right, bringing it back for action.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the agreement for training services leading for diversity, equity, and inclusion in county government.
Second.
We have a motion from Supervisor Scott, second by Supervisor Simon. Roll call, please, Johanna.
Okay, Supervisor Simon,
Yes.
Supervisor Crandall,
Aye.
Supervisor Scott,
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska,
Yes.
and Supervisor Sabatier.
Aye.
And Mr. Chair, I move to direct all appointed management employees and strongly encourage elected department heads to attend this training. Do we need a motion or just?
I think a motion is good, in my opinion.
Second.
A motion by Supervisor Scott, second by Supervisor Crandall. Roll call, please, Johanna.
Okay, Supervisor Simon,
Yes.
Supervisor Crandall,
Aye.
Supervisor Scott,
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska,
Yes.
and Supervisor Sabatier.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chair, could we just take a 2-minute break so I could confer with you for a moment about how the rest of the board meeting will go? Just 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Let's go ahead and take a
Step out
2-minute break.
for a second.
12:41 p.m. is when we will return. Looks like we're going in your office. Check, 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 check. All right. So we are back. We do have our 7.5, and then we have one other extra item for open session. But at this moment in time, we are going to turn over into closed session in order to take up the second extra item that we had approved. And upon concluding that, we are going to come back and then report if any action had been taken, and also then take a lunch. And so we will be back at 2:15. Actually, we'll report back at 2:15. So let's go ahead and go to closed session, and we will report back for the rest of our open session at 2:15.
You have to say what it is?
I don't remember what it is because it's an extra item, and it's, I'd have to ask CAO Hutchinson to read the heading of the extra item we will be taking on.
So we're taking on the extra item as soon as we go into closed session, and then we're returning at 2:50.
And what is the extra item?
Okay, and so the extra agenda item is 8.2, Public Employee Evaluation, Health Services Director.
Thank you very much. And with that, we will go to closed.
Try to keep Anita happy.